And Watkins sees this one sail over his head. The Clemson Tigers will start from their 25-yard line. Taj Boyd, what a year. Almost 300 yards passing the game, 28 touchdown passes. Both lead the conference. 19-5 as a starter, but undefeated here at home. And 65 career touchdown passes. That is a school record.
You go back to last year against North Carolina State on the road in Raleigh, and this offense turned the ball over 3 times inside of this territory right here during that ball game. It was 21 points for North Carolina State, and their longest offensive drive was 18 points. So protecting the ball early, obviously key.
Boyd, quarterback draw, shakes a tackle. 35, 40-yard line, first down, Clemson.
And this is a play that shows you the difference between Taj Boyd of 2011 and Taj Boyd of 2012. Last year at this time, Boyd was about 240 pounds. He's under 220. He's a better runner, and it is such a nice wrinkle to this offense they've added.
Boyd throws. Watkins makes the catch. He's up to the 46, 47-yard line. Take a look at the impact players, brought to you by Chick-fil-A.
Left tackle Brandon Thomas. This offensive front in general playing very well, but with all of the pressure that NC State brings from the outside, Thomas is key. And for Rashard Hall, it's reading the eyes of Glennon. Glennon, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Hall very good at picking off the ball.
Ellington trailing his blocker right on the back of the left tackle Brandon Thomas on his hip. Got as much out of it as he could. And another first down for the Tigers. Sterling Lucas, the middle linebacker, made the stop. There's good news for the Tigers because Watkins is out there. He had been troubled by an ankle. He has been suspended, injured, or sick almost all year long. And here's Watkins on the flanker screen. Across the 40 down to the 37. Good block by Brandon Ford. The tight end got out in front of him.
And one of the hard things when you're defending Clemson is Sammy Watkins doesn't play a ton. Of course, he wasn't back into game shape until just a few weeks ago. You mentioned the suspension and the illness, but when he's in the game, you know he's going to get the ball. It's just Chad Morris does it, the offensive coordinator for Clemson, so many different ways. It's tough to defend.
Looked like an option read, and then they throw off of it. The ball came out after the catch by Adam Humphries, and they're going to say that the ball is spotted at the 33-yard line.
And that is just fitting it into a lane by the quarterback. Sterling Lucas coming on the blitz, and Boyd had to step a little sidearm there and get it around, and very accurate throw, not from his normal slot.
Watkins in motion. They give it to him on the fly sweep, and not this time. Wrapped up in the backfield. And it was Brandon Bishop, the free safety, as they had 8 guys in the box.
And the one thing that Chad Morris, the OC from Clemson, wanted to do is some flyby screens like this because of the pressure from NC State. But that time, the pressure came on the outside from number 30, Brandon Bishop. So it came right to where the sweep was going. Good call that time by Mike Archer, the defense coordinator for NC State.
And Ed, when you put Watkins in motion, it gets everybody's attention, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Boyd with a short set. Watkins makes the catch out of bounds at the 29-yard line. First third down of the game, and this is strength against strength because Clemson, third in the country with 53% conversions, but NC State is third in the country defending third downs.
And the hard part for the Wolfpack defense right now, this is a place where they could be Clemson thinking 4 down, so they could take a shot here.
To the wide side of the field, incomplete. Fans wanted a flag. They're not going to get it. Justin Burris on the coverage of Jerron Brown. And he got there just in time, or was it early?
I think it's just in time. Nice Brown was going for the flag on his way down to the ground, but that was a great break and great timing to bring on a long field goal try by Catanzaro.
46-yard attempt. His long this year is 50. He had made 20 straight until he missed a 46-yarder at Wake Forest. He's good. Chandler Catanzaro, the 6'2", 195-pound junior, gives Clemson the lead on the opening drive. 12:56 to go first quarter. 3-0 Tigers. Chad Morris talking to his offensive guys who got off to a quick start. Janine said North Carolina State got the locker room speech about starting fast. Clemson may have gotten the same speech.
Well, and I think NC State lucky that that drive, which was starting to look kind of easy for Clemson, got stalled once it got inside the 30, and you get out with 3. It's like there was a haymaker coming, and I think they just caught a jab instead of the haymaker with 3 points.
Spencer Benton will kick off. Tobias Palmer, who had a 100-yard kickoff return a week ago, waits a yard deep in the end zone. And he'll have a chance to return just shy of the goal line. Has a big hole up the middle. And hit high and dragged down by the kicker. That's one reason they like Spencer Benton on the kickoff team. He will hit somebody. Mike Glennon is opening the eyes of NFL scouts. He trails only Taj Boyd in ACC passing yards per game. In 2 years as the starter, he's already number 4 on NC State's career pass yardage list. And since he took over for Russell Wilson, he's thrown 53 touchdown passes in 2 years. NC State's problem has been running the ball. The true freshman Shadrack Thornton will start at tailback. And Thornton is gang tackled after he gained maybe a yard.
And that's been such a difficult thing for Mike Glennon. When you look at this season coming in, they've lost a good portion of their offensive line. Zach Allen has been out, their best run blocker for several weeks. There weren't many receivers coming back with experience. Then you lose 2 running backs. Mustafa Green is dismissed, and James Washington gets an injured knee out for the year. I think for the elite quarterbacks in this country, Glennon's had the most to overcome.
Throws this one short, intended for Underwood, who's his second leading receiver. Let's take a look at the Chick-fil-A impact players.
For NC State, the best receiver, Brian Underwood, a guy that you can see Glennon goes to, needs him on 3rd and occasionally 4th down like against Florida State. And up front, Daryl Cato Bishop has to be a guy who gets something going. NC State will blitz a ton. But I think as this game wears on, they're going to need to get pressure with just movement of their front 4, not necessarily pressure. Because with the offensive line that Clemson has, I think they'll be able to pick up a lot of those blitzes.
Glennon will go to the shotgun on 3rd and 9. Good throw to the outside, but incomplete. Gary Peters may have gotten a hand on it. It looked like the ball got in there. And Glennon, a big enough arm to throw from one side to the other.
Well, it looked like the ball was thrown on time, but that was just a terrific break by Gary Peters. Of course, Darius Robinson out at the corner position with a leg injury. Awfully close to getting there early, but of course we're watching that slow motion. But Gary Peters, nice break on the ball.
Watkins is deep. Ballman to punt. He averages a little bit better than 40 yards a kick. He's had to punt 60 times this year. Hangs this one up. Watkins. Fair catch at the 33-yard line. 35-yard kick, but no return. 3-0 Clemson.
ESPN College Football is presented by 5-Hour Energy, hours and hours of energy, and in part by K Jewelers. Every kiss begins with K.
When you're winning, that pregame walk through the crowd's got to be a lot of fun. A lot of cheers.
When you're losing, you just walk straight to the locker room because nobody cares. No high fives.
You don't want anybody hitting you on the way by. Tigers will start from their own 34-yard line. Ellington, huge hole. Holy cow, still on his feet. Down to the 43-yard line. You could have driven the proverbial truck through that one.
Watch the right side of the offensive line for Clemson just crush the defense. Actually, you know what? That was a defensive tackle stunt on the inside there that cleared the lane. When you move your front as much as NC State does, that's exactly what happens sometimes. That wasn't as much movement as a called stunt.
Boyd with a play action fake. He throws to Ellington. Runs right by one linebacker, Ricky Dowdy. and picks up another big chunk. Here's Janine Edwards.
Well, guys, the first thing NC State defensive coordinator Mike Archer asked his defense when they came off the field before was, can you see me okay, and are you hearing each other okay? Watch these guys on the field. They will be watching Archer. They've spent a lot of time this week working on signals and communication because of how loud it is here.
DJ Howard comes into the ball game. He's been out with a bad ankle, not getting as many snaps as he would like. Picks up a couple.
And this is some that Chad Morris wanted to get some toss sweeps, some fly sweeps, get out on the edge because of all the movement that NC State does in the middle of their defensive line to take a little pressure off this offensive line.
Boyd was really staring down his receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, and he missed him. This NC State secondary was supposed to be the strength of the defense. Quite honestly, it has not been. They have been burned time after time, and this is probably the biggest test they'll face all year.
And the one thing that Chad Morris continued to remind his guys, though, is that don't forget David Amerson is a guy who had 13 interceptions last year. Yes, he's had a down year, but let's not forget, he's a productive guy who will take chances on the ball. So they're aware there's plenty of talent out there, even though they haven't played great throughout the season.
Pressure coming. Boyd gets rid of it. Complete to the 17-yard line. Watkins lost his footing, or he could have turned that into a much bigger game, but boy, he was wide open.
And this all set up by the offensive line picking up another blitz. I've been very impressed. I know there's a lot of talk about all the skill players here at Clemson. I've been very impressed with this offensive line from the first day I saw them this season.
A couple on a running play. Thomas Teal got the tackle.
And last week against Maryland, red zone has been obviously so much better in TD percentage. That you get near 80% touchdown percentage once you cross the 20-yard line. That's elite. 70-75% is a goal. 80% is elite.
Boyd after the fake on the keep. Boyd inside the 5. First and goal, Clemson.
Well, this is just a whole different guy than NC State saw last year at quarterback. Remember, Clemson went into this NC State game last year at 9-1, and yeah, it was a different 9-1 than I think you sense this team but is this year. I think this team is much better than the 9-1 they were last year, but a lot of it is just the ability of Boyd now to be a positive runner, and with the additional speed with the lost weight, it's a big deal.
Ellington plows his way forward for maybe a yard. This is an NC State defense that has been roasted a couple of times this year. Against Miami, they gave up 652 yards. 652, that's mind-blowing.
566 passing by Stephen Morris, so tough day through the air.
Boyd walks in. Darrell Smith, the fullback, cleared the way. There was nobody left. Well, the coaching staff told the players, you got to come out on fire. Nobody's got any matches yet.
Just the quarterback run game. If you have a quarterback that you can trust that has a good sense of the run game, you get inside the 5. That just adds such a tough element to defend.
Catanzaro pumps it through. Chad Morris, one of the bright minds in this game, already has seen his offense put up 10.
This is college football on ESPN, presented by 5 Hour Energy.
Clemson continues to move the ball almost at will. 2 minutes, 21 seconds on a 9-play drive. Clemson already with 112 yards in total offense in 5 minutes. If you're an NC State fan, here's the bad news. That's a pace of 1,344 yards.
I think they'll fall short of that, but this is an awfully good.
Well, as a play-by-play guy, I hope so.
You've got your throat lozenges sitting right there in front.
Benton to kick to Palmer on a nice return before. Takes it on the run, short kick. Runs into his own man, taken down near the 15-yard line. Pac-12 Northern Division rivals square off in ABC's Saturday Night Football as number 13 Stanford goes into Eugene to face number 2 Oregon. Saturday Night Football presented by Windows 8 tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC. 41 seconds. You got to hold it a little longer than that. And if you're Mike Glennon, you have to hope to be able to make some plays for this ball club. Thornton. Yikes. The run game has not been good, to be kind. Jonathan Willard made that last tackle. They are 107th in the country in rushing out of 120 teams. They had a 4-game stretch before the Wake Forest contest where they only averaged 48 yards rushing a game. You can't win rushing for 48 yards a game. Glennon right in the gut of Underwood, and he dropped it. You can't win with those either.
And that's been, you know, in watching the game film of Mike Glennon in this offense, Glennon is an elite guy. I think he's going to sneak up into the first round before all is said and done next spring. But when you look at the things he's had to overcome, including multiple drops, as many as 10 against North Carolina in that game, it's just been a ton to overcome for this offense. And this quarterback in his senior year who had prepared and was ready to have a breakout season, it's just the pieces just haven't quite been there for him.
And it is also psychologically crushing for everybody else on the team, for the lineman to block, Glennon to throw, and then the receiver drops a ball where he's wide open. And all 11 guys have to do their job together.
And that throw there was open and not a great throw overthrown. So you hear all the time, it's one mistake leads to another. That time Glennon had a little bit of pressure, but he's typically very good in pressure. But they had a corner route that looked open and he missed it.
Ballman to punt to Watkins. High and very short. Watkins fair catch all the way up near the 49-yard line. Only a 32-yard punt, but no return. Clemson's offense over 322 passing yards a game. That leads the ACC. Almost 43 points a game, number 6 in the country. Total offense, 513 yards a game. That's 7th, and 27 touchdown drives that took 2 minutes or less.
So their touchdown drive earlier was actually slow then.
It was. At least you're not being tortured 4 yards at a time. Roderick McDowell gets a chance to carry the football. 195-pound junior. Boyd on the option read to McDowell. They make it look so easy. Brandon Bishop, the free safety, had to make the tackle downfield. Clemson right at the line of scrimmage.
Well, it's
ready to go.
It's blocked very well, and the problem is the safety coming downhill, Earl Wolf, doesn't quite break down, so then you get the additional yardage with the missed tackle.
McDowell again, stutter steps this time, picks up only 2 before he is stopped. This is a very aggressive defense. John Tenuta, the veteran defensive coach, is the linebacker coach. Mike Archer, equally experienced as the defensive coordinator. Boyd under pressure. Runs away from it and forced out of bounds. Dowdy came from the outside and forced the play.
And how, if this was 2011, Dowdy makes that sack.
You're right.
Because at this point last year, Taj Boyd admittedly had let some of the things go to his head with all of the accolades they were starting to get. He gained some weight. That time, Dowdy had him dead to rights. He decided to take off, and he's just a different player this season.
3rd down for Boyd. Hopkins is the single receiver to the near side. And Boyd is looking that way, and Hopkins makes the diving catch. And now they're going to say it's incomplete. Emerson was on him.
And NC State, again, catches a jab instead of a haymaker. because Catanzaro has to come out. Good protection, ball thrown nice to the outside, and that was by Amerson. Very good defense. Got his arm over the top, and that's the one thing Amerson is known for. 6'3" with long arms. That was good defense.
He has already hit from 46. This will be 43 yards from Catanzaro. And he is 2 for 2 on long ones. The Tigers extend their lead to 13 midway first quarter.
Clemson Tigers. Bring it 110%.
So far, North Carolina State has run the ball twice for 3 yards. They're 0 for 4 passing with 2 drops. If they don't want this to get ugly, they've got to step up the pace on offense.
But 2 field goals instead of 2 touchdowns on drives that looked like they could end that way. So the defense, even through their struggles, have had a couple of early stops that at least have kept this where you get a score here and you're right back in it.
Tobias Palmer. Nice cut, then lost his footing and went down to 23. Our first chance of the day to check in with Robert Flores. Robert.
Hey, Mike, AT&T All-American Player of the Week nominee. It is Temple running back Montel Harris. 351 yards on the ground, 7 touchdowns against Army. Those are Big East Conference records. 34763. You text vote to that to become part of the process. Results were announced on Thursday.
NC State will start from its 23-yard line. Thornton is the tailback. 2 tight ends, 2 wideouts. Glennon airs it out. Caught, dropped, and caught again by Palmer. Touchdown. 77 yards. So you go from 3 yards in total offense in the first 2 possessions to 77 on this one. Gary Peters was the guy who was beaten, and Tobias Palmer, maybe he wouldn't have come back to the bench if he'd have dropped that one.
Hey, well, he won't get credit for 2 catches. I know that. Just the one. But because their defense held, all of a sudden, you're right back in the ballgame. This felt like it was going to start really running away from NC State. What a huge turn of momentum for them.
Sadie for the point after, and 81,000 people just got very quiet.
Well, Gary Peters has one-on-one, and that's an out and up by Palmer. Very close to going out of bounds, but if he would have been forced out by Peters. In college football, you could come back. But Gary Peters, he sold out on the outcut. That was just bad technique by Peters. He could not recover. And for Palmer, because he almost drops it, comes up with something that may be in the running for a top 10 type of play tonight on SportsCenter. Even if he catches it clean, potentially, because it's a long throw.
Go back to the throw. What a throw by Glennon.
Yeah.
On the run.
I studied Glennon really hard yesterday on Coach's Film. I watched him against Florida State. I watched a couple of their games. The NFL scouts are starting to see. Todd McShay, who's one of our NFL draft experts, has been pushing him up consistently. When you watch him on film and the struggles that NC State have had up front in their offensive line with injuries and the youth at running back and the youth at wide receiver, you saw Glennon. He's a tall guy who can run fairly well. He moves better than you think. He has great technique and a really lively arm. It was a terrific throw.
He is much more athletic than he seems to be. He doesn't pass the eye test.
Well, he's almost 6'7", so it's hard to see a guy having good, quick feet that's that tall, but he truly does.
There's nothing wrong with the arm, though.
No.
That thing was a beauty on the money.
You go back to last year. we now see what type of quarterback Russell Wilson really is. He goes and starts as a rookie in the NFL and plays well.
Exactly.
They don't make that decision to make Russell commit to football and give up baseball if they didn't know what they had in Mike Glennon. They clearly knew. Tom O'Brien and his staff and Dana Bible, the quarterback's coach, they clearly knew what they had in Glennon. It was a tough decision for everyone. It seems to have worked out for everyone perfectly well.
Boyd throws to Watkins. That was a backward pass.
Well, the NC State coaches want a lost yardage play.
It was.
The side judge
there.
That was a backwards pass, but the side judge gave an incomplete pass when it ended. So it would only been probably a yard or two of lost yardage. Well, you know, after looking at it, right on the line.
Pretty close.
Yeah, but a yard or two, I don't think it makes much of a difference.
So either way.
Yeah.
Boyd hangs in the pocket. And over the left shoulder of Sammy Watkins.
And here's one of
covered by Burris.
You know, there's a lot of talk about Taj Boyd. Obviously, he has NFL ability. He's just a junior. And I think there's one thing that Boyd, and I suspect Boyd will come back because this team next year is going to be, it's going to start in the top 5, and I think they're going to be good enough to make a run at a national championship. But I think Boyd can watch Glennon. Glennon on that throw a lot of times will underthrow that ball. And that's something I think just over time Boyd could start working on as well.
Clemson 1 out of 3 on 3rd down. Now they're going to be 1 out of 4 after that pass is completed for very little gain to Brandon Ford. And this was the matchup we were going to keep an eye on because Clemson 3rd in the country in 3rd down conversions. NC State 3rd in the country preventing 3rd down conversions.
And I think so far for Mike Archer, win across the board. They big drives ended in 3s, and now you get a 3 and out after a big touchdown and some good field position here.
Richard Smith, after a bad punt into Clemson territory at the 49, an 11-yard return. Tomorrow night on ESPN, we'll break down how this week's games impacted the BCS standings. Look ahead to next week's key matchups. It's BCS Countdown tomorrow night at 8:30 Eastern on ESPN, presented by Tostitos. And now the crowd getting back into it after they have seen NC State get the big 77-yard touchdown pass and come out here in good field position.
Because these fans know you went out against NC State and South Carolina, you'll probably go into your second BCS bowl in a row.
Glennon again. Palmer, touchdown! He beat Bashaud Breeland. You take those 2 passes from Glennon. You cannot throw that pass any better. You can't.
This game was starting to feel like it was going to be 35-7 at halftime, Clemson's way. And all of a sudden, with an extra point and 2 spectacular throws to the same guy, Mike Glennon's got his team right back in the lead.
This crowd is stunned, and I don't blame them. Their first 6 plays got 3 yards. The last 2, 126 and 2 touchdowns. That's an upgrade.
Well, they had Gary Peters on that side the play before. Now they moved Breeland over there. Remember, Breeland, a guy who missed the Duke game, played a little bit against Maryland last week with a groin injury, and he just got beat. There was no safety over the top. Meeks had to play the middle of the field because there was an underneath route. Unless that's a blown coverage, which did not look to me. It looked to me like Meeks, the safety, had an underneath coverage responsibility. Breeland just got beat, and you have to wonder if it's that groin injury that he suffered and was barely able to play last week.
But if you're the corner in that situation, you can't give away the inside.
No, you have to force the receiver to run through you when he's trying to get to that post. If, in fact, the coverage was what it looked like, which means no deep safety help, which is what Meeks showed as he was coming down on that underneath route.
Well, we said this crowd was very quiet after the first touchdown. Now they're mumbling. It's what happened? We were leading 13-0 after 3 possessions. What happened?
Well, a guy who's going to make a bunch of money in the NFL next year happened, I think, at quarterback for NC State.
Got that right. And now the Tigers are going to have to regroup as they'll start from their own 25 And they will do it under the watchful eye of Chad Morris, who has proven himself in 2 short years to be just such an exceptional offensive coordinator.
And I think for the head coach, Dabo Swinney, who I think was a great hire to go to Tulsa and make this hire to bring Chad Morris here after only 1 year of college football at the high school in Texas. But for Dabo Swinney, I would think as a head coach, I'd be thinking, wow, I hope my guys aren't regressing and thinking about last year against NC State when we played so poorly.
Boyd, flanker screen. Watkins lowers his shoulder and dives forward. They'll pick up about 8. Burris made the tackle. Already 6 catches for Sammy Watkins, who may have been the best player in the year player in the country last year as a freshman wide receiver. Watkins comes into the backfield. They fake it to him, give it to Ellington. Ellington has a first down across the 35.
And in talking to some of the fans of Clemson before this game, because of the game next week against South Carolina, of course, in-state rival, a lot of people around these parts wondering, is this a trap game? Here comes an NC State team that got blown out against UVA. They just didn't show up, didn't play well. And I think a lot of people wrote them off. And would they overlook it?
Ellington is blasted in the backfield by Darrell Cato Bishop, who has been probably their most consistent down lineman this year and leads them in sacks with 5.5. He just fired into the backfield that time and smashed Ellington.
And because Mike Archer calls so many movements on his front, it's hard to tell if that was Cato Bishop running to the ball or was he on a slant that just took him to the ball, because that could happen quite often as well.
All they know is attack, attack, attack. Boyd. Emerson comes up to make the stops. He got to the 41. Sterling Lucas, the middle linebacker, was trailing the play.
And that was a 3-man defensive line front where the 2 tackles went all the way to the left. The defensive end, Cato Bishop, came all the way back, and it was picked up. And then what happens sometimes because of that movement, big lanes open up. It really is hard to keep your lane integrity when you stump this much.
Another third down. Watkins sort of hesitated on his pattern, then had to restart his body and couldn't hold the ball. Pretty good throw from Taj Boyd. Should have made the catch.
It's unbelievable how efficient Clemson looked at the beginning of this game, and now look like they can't get out of their own way.
Benton to punt. Smith is deep for NC State. Very short, very high. Makes a big Clemson bounce. Timeout on the field. Let's check in with Robert Flores. Robert?
Hey, Mike, Taco Bell studio update. We'd like to welcome those of you who have been watching UCLA and USC. Bruins all over the Trojans, 24-0. Jonathan Franklin weaving his way into the end zone. They're still in the second quarter, and they're up big, 24-0.
You know, that brings up everybody talking about, they use the word showdown between Notre Dame and USC. What's the showdown? USC hasn't shown me anything in a long time. Glennon, plenty of time. This time it's not the bomb, but it's to Palmer, and he's out to the 45.
Well, that, even though it's become the Tobias Palmer show, that play's got to be a little disappointing after Palmer runs by Gary Peters in one-on-one coverage, and then he spins around Bashaud Breeland for back-to-back touchdowns. Looks like Tobias Palmer, the senior, is starting to become the guy that Glennon is focused in on.
He's caught the last 3 passes for 154 yards. This one is incomplete. Intended for Quentin Payton, who came into the game as the leading receiver with 42 catches. Look at the numbers on Glennon. Jeez.
And there's another dropped pass. Even though that would have been a difficult catch, you would expect a receiver to be able to make that. So it's amazing what this guy's been able to do.
Thornton to the 48-yard line. Let's check in with Janine Edwards.
Well, Mike and Ed, you know, I'm used to seeing defensive coordinator Brent Venables for Clemson get very agitated when he has his defensive backs miss plays like those guys did on the last series. But last time, he didn't have to say a word to them because both Peters and Breland were beating themselves up. There was a lot of chatter on that bench between defensive backs. They know that they blew some assignments there. Peters and Breland both very frustrated.
3rd and 7 here. This may further frustrate them, Janine, as the pass is complete to Quentin Payton. Keep in mind that Glennon is doing all he has done this year without experienced receivers. Payton had 11 career catches coming into this season.
You know, until you really start studying a team and a player, it's hard to really know everything about them. We'll let this play go.
That was intended for Underwood.
A little miscommunication there, but
yes, it was, and Brewer had good position.
Until you really understand what a team has been through with injuries and suspensions, and last year for NC State, it was everybody on defense getting hurt. This year it's been on the offensive line, and then of course they had to finally dismiss Mustafa Green for multiple violations of breaking team rules, who was their best running back. And to see what Glennon's been able to do despite all of that has been incredibly impressive.
Glennon, good protection again, keeps the play alive, gets the completion to Thornton out of the backfield. Thornton won't go down. Shadrack Thornton very close to the sticks, which are between the 31 and 32-yard line.
That was really nice pocket work by Glennon. Sidestep, step up, watch his feet. Very close to the ground as the pocket closes. The thing you do is you move up. Most guys want to bounce backwards there. You buy so much more time if you step up.
3rd down and a yard. Thornton has it and more. Boy, if they can get anything out of the ground game, what a huge boost it would be.
And you think about Thornton. Here's a guy who didn't play at all in the first 3 games. He was going to redshirt as a true freshman.
Right.
Mustafa Green gets the boot. James Washington gets hurt. Tony Creasy's been banged up a little bit today. So a guy who was looking to be a redshirt and mostly a scout team guy has to then come in. And the coach has been very impressed. He picked it up quickly. But a guy that they didn't even expect to have to lean on, they're having to lean on down the stretch.
It's only the 2nd start of his career. Nice cut to get to the outside and then shows some toughness. Lowers his shoulder and pounds his way down to the 18.
And when you talk to Dana Bible, the offensive coordinator, one of the brightest offensive minds, I think, in the entire game. Runs a little different offense, obviously, than Chad Morris, but that same type of guy, just a brainiac when it comes to offense. They said when they saw Thornton early in camp that he showed some flash, so they knew they could get something out of him if they needed it once he got comfortable.
To the end zone, the diving catch is made for a touchdown. Rashard Smith. Boy, give Glennon some credit on that one. And this huge crowd is just stunned.
Dabo Sweeney has said this is a different team than they had last year when they kind of fell apart in this game. We're about to find out.
Ballman for the point after. And North Carolina State, after looking inept on its first 2 possessions, has scored touchdowns on its next 3.
Well, Mike Glennon, when you start breaking down the film like the scouts are doing now, he does one thing sensationally well, and that's step into pressure. The blitz is coming. He knows it. You can see that he gets the weight transfer right before he gets hit by Beasley and delivers a strike to Smith. This is what the scouts are going to be looking at, is accuracy under pressure, and this guy just flat has it.
And the middle of the field has been wide open.
I think Brent Venables, something's going on with the safeties where they're not getting back, or he's calling coverages where the safeties are having to come down and work a lot of the crossing routes. But you can see the hands up by Xavier Brewer. It looked to me like there was a blown coverage back there potentially.
I mean, when he turned around, he was obviously expecting some help in the middle of the field and it wasn't there.
And that's been the big plays this year for Clemson in their secondary have been a lot because of bad eyes, chasing things you're not supposed to chase, or flat out mental busts.
I don't think I have ever seen a turnaround in a ball game like this. It looked like Clemson was totally dominating everything and might win 60-0, and all at once, kaboom.
How many yards were they on track for when you were
1,344.
Yeah, I think they're going to fall a little short.
Ladies and gentlemen, during the game so far, Dalton Freeman has become Clemson's all-time leader in plays with 3,100. He moved ahead of Landon Walker in the second.
Chad Morris going to talk to his offense, saying you've got to go out there and match these guys' intensity right now.
Especially the way Glennon is playing right now, and the secondary for Clemson, which has had their struggles this year. You've got an elite quarterback in the building playing that well. You've got to be worried.
Boyd throws behind Hopkins, incomplete. Here's Janine.
Well, guys, the mood on the NC State bench has completely turned, as you can imagine. And like I told you at the top of the show, I mean, they wanted a quick start, and it was obvious after the first series or two that there was some frustration. But, you know, Coach Tom O'Brien had told them, hey, we're getting to a bowl game now. How good of a bowl do you want to go to? It's up to you.
You know, Tom O'Brien, Janine, has been under a lot of local fire down in the Raleigh area. A lot of people saying he's been on the hot seat. I think this guy has done a terrific coaching job at NC State. It is not an easy place to win because so many people come to North Carolina to recruit players.
And if you look at the things that this team has been through the last 2 years, last year all the injuries on defense, this year it's comical what happened on offense if you're not a Wolfpack fan. But to come out and it could end up with a win against Florida State and a win against Clemson. That's a pretty good season, considering what went down.
Big third down. Pressure coming. Boyd hangs in the pocket. Watkins open, passes underthrown and intercepted. Justin Burris picks it off. Burris, midfield, gets a block. And down to the 35-yard line. A 37-yard return after Taj Boyd's 10th interception of the season. And if you're Clemson, things are coming apart at the seams.
And this was a good read by the quarterback. He had the post for a touchdown. He threw it a little late, and he threw it a little short, and he threw it behind the receiver. If he throws this ball just a touch earlier and more accurately, I think it's a walk-in touchdown. But it's a little slow to Watkins, which allows Burris, the freshman, to make up the distance. Unfortunately, that was just not a great throw by Taj Boyd.
If you want action, I hope you've enjoyed the first quarter. Glennon comes out throwing, sideline, complete to Payton. When a quarterback gets hot, there is almost nothing you can do to stop him.
And the safeties now for Clemson. That time there was a safety at 25 yards in the middle of the field. I think Brent Venables got tired of what was going on in the safeties and said, I'm just going to stick a couple of guys back there, and we're not moving from about 15 to 20 yards back.
Glennon again looking for protection, throws almost intercepted off of the hands of Xavier Brewer.
Well, that was a complete miscommunication between Glennon and his receiver. Glennon was expecting a fade. The receiver, number 88, Quentin Payton, stopped on a hitch, and NC State very lucky that that was not an INT.
And usually it's the receiver's fault. Second down from the 20-yard line. Keep an eye on Palmer. He's the top of the screen. Draw play. Thornton nearly broke it the entire way. Got down to the 14-yard line. They need to reach the 10 for a first down.
Boy, I love that play to get to 3rd and short, because now with Glennon the way he's playing, you can call anything you want. And I would think for NC State, even if they don't pick it up here, don't be surprised if they go for it, because Tom O'Brien's not thinking 3. I think he's got to think 7. Clemson's going to turn it on eventually. An unbelievable change of momentum here. It looked like Clemson was going to run NC State out of the building, and then Mike Glennon and Tobias Palmer hook up twice. That one, he only got caught one catch. That was Palmer. And now, after 3 touchdown passes and taking the lead, NC State right on the doorstep again.
The first quarter had a split personality. It looked like Clemson might score 60 on NC State. Now North Carolina State's turnaround looked like they might get 80 against Clemson. 390 yards of total offense in the first quarter between the two teams. And NC State right here bidding for more. They're facing a 3rd and 4. Thornton is the single setback. And he'll get it on the toss. Boy, if he had gone outside, the defender slipped and fell. He was wide open, could have run all day long.
And I think at this point you have to kick it if you're NC State. I think if it was 4th and short, I think you'd consider going for it. But now take these points. But you're right, Mike. That was Thornton. He went to cut it up a little too soon. If he would have shuffled one more step, he might have got the edge in the pylon for 6.
Nicholas Sadie from 32 yards out. He's hit 10 of 16 this year. And he got it through the right upright. 32-yard field goal and 24 unanswered points from the Wolfpack.
You're watching college football on ESPN, presented by 5 Hour Energy.
Boyd had the great start. Glennon has really caught fire. And it's 24-13 North Carolina State over number 11 Clemson. Watkins running start at the 4. Can't get outside or upfield enough to use the speed. He gets to the 22. This is like Ed Cunningham's Academy Award-winning script. You tell Clemson to go out the first 3 possessions and burn them down, and then you say, okay, NC State, it's your turn.
It really did feel like a switch was flipped. It was that throw to Palmer that just changed everything, and Clemson has not been able to get out of their own way offensively since then.
Boyd only 2 out of his last 8. He's clearly lost his throwing rhythm. Here he's going to run for good yardage. Taken down from behind by Art Norman. But a good run by Taj Boyd.
Well, Chad Morris has been calling Boyd's number, but this one was a pull down and run. Nothing was there, and what they're trying to get number 10 to do, just be really decisive.
Humphreys flanker screen across the 40. A very quick wide receiver Sterling Lucas, the middle linebacker, took him down.
Chad Morris, one of the best communicators in the business. And they chart everything the quarterbacks do. Their play fakes, their footwork. They work so relentlessly on technique.
Ellington should have a first down at near the 45. Let's check in with Janine Edwards.
And guys, you can see that Clemson is going pretty fast right now. Offensive coordinator Chad Morris was just telling them they've got to play right now like it's the 4th quarter. He wants them upping the tempo because they have not been matching NC State's intensity.
Ellington on the delay across the 40. Ellington heard a whistle. He thought it was because he moved early, and he did. But nobody threw a flag, so Ellington reset himself and goes 20 yards. That should have been a penalty against the Tigers.
Boy, that was just a huge break for Clemson. Good move at the line of scrimmage, though. They say running backs make someone miss.
Ball comes out. Hopkins, they're going to say incomplete. They will. And my question is, how do you miss Ellington moving in the backfield?
You shouldn't. Mechanically, as an official, there should be a set of eyes on the backfield. So that was a miss. So as Ellington comes over the sideline working on, looks like he's taking some pads off. And boy, that was awfully close to a catch and a fumble. It was not, but closer than I thought.
McDowell, 20, 15, slammed down at the 12. McDowell had only carried 61 times coming into this ball game, getting a chance to run some here, and he's done well.
I love this little cutback right at the end by McDowell. How many guys get to here and they just try to outrun everybody, but he slowed down as he saw the safety Bishop coming over and picked up another 5 or 6 yards. Nice cut.
4 carries, 46 yards. Humphreys, the flanker, takes it. He's inside the 10 near the 7-yard line.
And Humphreys a guy who's starting to get into the mix. Of course, we talk so much about Hopkins and Sammy Watkins, but this is a guy last week against Maryland. Led the team with 5 receptions. Now you can see Chad Morris starting to get him involved in some of the flyby stuff that they do here.
McDowell is back in. Boyd with a keeper, goes out in the flat to the tight end. Ford, touchdown. The converted wide receiver, who's 240 pounds, took that one to the goal line and got in.
And here, Clemson going for 2. I always think, I get it, 2 gives you 21, you're only down by 3, but I always feel like these are a 50-50 proposition. I think take the 1 because you're going to be chasing that 2 if you don't get it. I always feel like just go ahead and kick it.
Boyd, empty backfield. Got Hopkins in the end zone, throws underneath, knocked away. Broken up by Brandon Bishop. Ford was waiting in the end zone for the throw, and it got there a little bit late. The 2-point conversion fails, but they got the touchdown. 24-19.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Nissan, premier partner of the Heisman Trophy, and in part by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
These photographs taken by the Clemson Student Photography Group. Hard to miss with this kind of color on a perfect day. About 61 degrees. Tobias Palmer. He's already had a monster game and cuts it outside to midfield. Saving tackle by Brewer. A return of 46 yards by Tobias Palmer, who's already caught 2 bombs.
Palmer, the senior, picking a pretty good game to have his best game. This is, I think, safe to say, a breakout. And if you do not have the safety Xavier Brewer playing that perfectly, give Brewer a ton of credit. That's what your deep safeties are supposed to do on kickoff return. If number 9 doesn't play that perfectly, that would have been another huge play for NC State.
Now can Glennon keep it going? After the first 2 possessions, he has been absolutely sensational. Tony Creasy has checked in as the tailback. He'll go out in the pattern, and they'll throw to him. Creasy able to stay in bounds until he reached the 44-yard line.
The one thing you notice when watching NC State on film is how often Mike Glennon throws the ball with a face full of opponent.
Yeah.
And that time it was Malachi Goodman who had gotten off the edge and gotten some pressure. But this guy almost always, you watch that Florida State game, there weren't many throws in that second half where there wasn't a white shirt in his face.
No, he was just getting crushed. Creasy maybe lost a yard.
I think you're in that 4-down-ish territory if you're NC State, potentially.
And now for today's Aflac trivia question. What Clemson head coach was married on the same day he beat North Carolina State?
Not sure you'd want to have a wedding ceremony as big as the game has gotten. So think old school with that one.
Big third down here. Three-man rush. Glennon trying to take off, dives forward. He's going to be a yard shy.
And I think you go for it here. 4th and 1 on the 41-yard line. You punt it, you get it inside. If you get a touchback, it's only 21 yards gain. This is not a game where you can play slow.
This was a snap decision, I think.
Yeah, I think you absolutely go here. The problem for NC State is they haven't been good running the ball between the tackles, so this is a hard call for Dana Bible. I think you still run it, though.
Creasy is the tailback. He'll get the carry. And Creasy didn't even get back to the line of scrimmage. Didn't really hit it up in there.
Well, watch the penetration on short yardage type of plays. If there's an inside run game, it's all about penetration by your defensive linemen. And that time, number 91, Josh Watson, does a great job of blowing up the puller. The back block doesn't work, and you also had Grady Jarrett in there. That's been the problem for NC State. When they needed a yard inside the tackles, they haven't been able to get it. Credit Clemson's defensive line, though. Nicely played.
And when you see, there's Ellington breaking away from a tackle. Another still on his feet, 40, 35. When you saw that replay, you knew why Creasy really didn't slam it up into the hole, because there wasn't one.
Well, and, you know, we saw that a couple of weeks ago with Oklahoma. That's a delayed play for NC State. And then they don't get it, and all of a sudden, Ellington, who's having a wonderful game himself, all of a sudden, finishing some runs.
Watkins flanker screen. Good block by Ford. Goes inside the 30. 7 catches for Sammy Watkins. Anytime you can get him the ball out in space, you've done a good thing.
And you're starting to see they're using him in different ways, getting him involved a little more. Now Mike Archer, the defense coordinator, has to worry about number 2, running the post, running the screen, running the fly sweep. They get him involved a lot of ways.
This one is tipped and nearly intercepted, intended for Hopkins. Ricky Dowdy with the diving try for the interception. And that's what the defensive linemen like Brian Slayer taught to do. When they see that short drop, they know they're not going to get there. Get their hands
read
up.
it. And now you've got 3rd and short.
3rd down has been NC State's winning margin, 1 out of 6. Not this time. Watkins untouched. Touchdown. Brandon Ford, the tight end who was split out, threw him a good block, but there was no help on the perimeter. What a game. Holy cow.
Well, and now Clemson is in that mode of chasing that 2-point conversion. I know it's tempting to continue to go for the 2-point conversion, but I think at some point you just got to kick the PAT. But Sammy Watkins, you can just see when he goes to step on the accelerator, he just has a different gear. I'm not sure he got out of about 3rd gear that time because it was so wide open.
Didn't have to. Boyd under pressure. Throws to Brandon Ford for the 2-point conversion. We've still got 10 minutes and 28 seconds to go in the first half. And it's 27-24. Scoreboard may run out of lights.
The only thing we're missing are fancy uniforms.
Back to our track meet on grass. It's 27-24. We've only played 4 minutes and 32 seconds into the second quarter. Are you kidding?
I think somebody should go put on mirrored helmets.
Or somebody ought to play defense. Tobias Palmer, who already has 249 all-purpose yards in this game, will not be able to add to that total. Here's Robert Flores in the studio. Robert?
All right, Mike, Dr. Pepper conference update from the SEC. LSU back on top at home against Ole Miss. Spencer Ware, the 1-yard touchdown run. They lead by 3. This is the first time LSU hasn't played a ranked opponent since September 29th.
The SEC, they could have called this walkover weekend, couldn't they?
Yeah, I think that might have been the best game in conference. A lot of FCS schools making the trek south.
The average drive in this game has taken 1 minute and 36 seconds to score. There have been 9 of them. Flag is down. First
Full
flag.
start, number 74 offense, 5 yards, first down.
Tyson Chandler, the right tackle, called for an early movement.
Chandler, a guy who's got some upside, just a sophomore. Of course, with all of the injuries they had, Andrew Wallace used to be there at the starting right tackle. Then he got hurt. He's back in playing some at guard now, but Chandler had to step up when Zach Allen now out. So Andrew Wallace healthy, goes back into that right guard spot. A lot of different lineups for this offensive front for NC State this year.
Shadrack Thornton is back in at the tailback. Blitz coming. Complete to Underwood. Underwood showing speed and quickness, gets out to the 40. First down. They gain 20 on 1st and 15.
Well, this is all about blitz pickup. And this time Thornton does a really nice job as the blitzer tries to time it up. Watch the cut block by the running back. Perfectly timed because it got the arms down of the defender for Glennon to throw it right over the top.
Glennon again. Palmer makes the catch, this time for only about 3 yards, and the free safety Rashard Hill made the tackle.
Well, we knew we were going to see a lot of pressure from NC State and defensive coordinator Mike Archer, but Brett Venables now seeming like he wants to bring linebacker pressure on almost every down. I think he's tired of seeing Glennon standing back there, and they're almost getting to them. He wants to get to him.
They come with 6 this time. The pass outside, incomplete. That was intended.
And Glennon just missed that throw.
Yeah,
that was picked up. It was open. Just didn't quite get what he wanted on that ball. And now I think you've got to think about some crossing routes here if you're NC State. Obviously push some people beyond the sticks, but make sure that you have something underneath with a guy on the run in case they're not open.
Glennon will go to the shotgun. 4-man rush this time and pressure on Glennon. Somehow he got away, shovel it to Thornton. Thornton, 40, shakes the tackle, 35, 33-yard line. What an effort by Glennon to keep it alive and then allow Thornton to run in the open field. A gain of 23, what should have been and looked like a sack.
Terrific pass rush by Vic Beasley, working on the left tackle there. Tyson, excuse me, Rob Chris, but Glennon able to dip right underneath of it and get it to Thornton.
Glennon hangs this one up for grabs. He got away with one, threw it into double coverage. Intended for Peyton and Rashard Hall, the closest man to it. Meeks was back there as well.
Yeah, and Rashard Hall is, he's going to thump himself on this one because he reads it perfectly. This was greedy by Glennon. He fell back, he had a defender on his leg, but Hall had that ball dead to rights, and a guy who's very good at picking it off, not able to come up with what would have been a huge interception.
Really the first mental mistake we have seen Glennon make at quarterback. Thornton gets down to the 30, and Thornton looks like he has really found his confidence.
That tackle was not made by Shuey, the middle linebacker. I think Thornton gets inside the 20-yard line, but Shuey, a guy making his 4th straight start, has been a settling influence at middle linebacker.
Another big 3rd down. Glennon, short set, throws it away.
Well, and I think they should throw intentional grounding here.
There was nobody there, was there?
No, not at all. Glennon was throwing this away. He did not leave the tackle box. This is the correct call. So you're going to lose about another.
Intentional grounding, number 8 of the offense. That's left down.
And this is a big deal because you were looking at a potential field goal by Sadie. You're right at the range for Sadie for a long field goal, and because of the penalty now, NC State has to punt the ball. That's a huge penalty on the senior quarterback that knocked NC State out of field goal range.
So Bauman will come on to punt. And this is right into the setting sun and takes a good bounce for NC State. They'll down it at the 11-yard line. Going in that direction, pretty tough to catch that punt. Now for the answer to our Aflac trivia question, which was, what Clemson head coach was married on the same day that he defeated North Carolina State? Well, you couldn't get away with it anymore. It's John Heisman, and it was in 1903. Maybe things were different in 1903.
I think you could probably have a wedding after a football game. Hold on. After a football game like this, if it were a small affair, justice of the peace type wedding. If you wanted a big blowout, that'd be a little tough to put into a day like today.
If you do that, just go ahead and schedule the divorce for 6 months after that. Short gain on the pass out to the 14-yard line. Humphreys made the catch. 8:32 and counting first half as Clemson has regained the momentum and the lead on the scoreboard at 27-24. Boyd quarterback draw, and NC State was waiting for it. Lucas was there, so was Dowdy.
And now all of a sudden we've been talking about the strength of these two teams defensively for NC State. It's been stopping third down, and now for Clemson finding themselves time and again in third and long situations. They're getting behind the sticks occasionally.
Four-man rush. Boyd hangs in the pocket and throws perfectly to Watkins. There were three guys out there in white and red. They kept going. He stopped, caught the pass, and gained 27.
Good read by Boyd. Good throw. When you see a linebacker covering Sammy Watkins like Quandon Christensen is trying to do here, good job stepping into the throw with a little pressure. But there's just no way that a strong side linebacker is going to be able to tail number 2.
Ellington picks up 4. Dowdy, who is the third leading tackler on this team, made the stop. A kid who only had 1 snap before this season, 1 in his entire career. This is junior season. He's been an outstanding linebacker for them. Boyd unmolested and right through the hands of Hopkins. And we've seen Clemson several times. Hopkins doesn't drop balls. That's very unusual.
And very lucky for NC State that Brandon Bishop, the free safety, was not called for targeting. He just was going down, but a lot of times when that receiver's going down, you end up with that almost incidental head-to-head contact.
Another big third down for the Tigers. They need to reach midfield to keep the drive going. Quarterback draw. That could have been a tripping call on T.Y. McGill. He stuck the leg out. Fortunately for him, he didn't make enough contact to draw the flag.
And Ricky Dowdy, who had the coverage earlier on Sammy Watkins. Of course, I mistakenly said that was Quandon Christian of Clemson, but of course that's Dowdy. Dowdy involved, and you're right, very lucky.
Bradley Pinion to kick to Smith. Flags are down. 41-yard kick, and this looked like a block in the back.
It was a punt of 41 yards.
Illegal block in the back, number 19 of the return team. Half the distance to the goal. First down, NC State.
So NC State backed up as they take over here. 6:28 to go in the half. Welcome back to Death Valley. Let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary. Glennon's percentage not all that hot, only 55%, but the results are terrific. 256 yards, 3 scores. Boyd, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick, also ran for 1. And Sammy Watkins already over the 100-yard mark with 9 catches in the first half.
And let's not forget that interception was on a Watkins post where Watkins looked like he had a step. Ball slightly underthrown by Boyd. So what do those numbers look like if he hits that pass?
Now Glennon has to start from his own 8-yard line. Give it to Thornton. Thornton out to the 12. DJ Reader was in on the stop along with Brewer out of the secondary. And even though they don't run a spread offense, NC State hurries in and out of formation and runs plays. That pass was thrown behind Thornton.
And Mike Glennon is mad at Thornton. Thornton was supposed to break to his right, but he broke to his left. And when you get down to true freshman running backs, those are some of the things that happen. And if he breaks to his left instead of right, he probably picks up that first down.
And if he goes the wrong way, it's kind of thing that makes quarterback look real bad and could be a pick 6 going the other way. 3rd and long. 4-man rush. Thornton again with a great block to keep his quarterback upright. And Palmer with another catch out to the 40. 28 yards. Quandon Christian, who had a direct beat on Glendon, and Shadrach Thornton, all 200 pounds of him, cut him down.
And the one thing Glennon does such a nice job is throw a touch pass. As soon as Palmer cleared, Glennon knew he had him. He didn't throw a fastball. He has the ability to lay the ball in. You know, you see a lot of guys, when that deep route comes open, they can't wait to put everything they've got into it. But watch as Palmer comes open, he doesn't fire it. He throws it accurately on time and throws an incredibly catchable ball. This guy has a wonderful toolbox.
The more you see Glennon, the more impressed you are. This pass off the fingertips of Underwood as he was ridden off the catch by Brewer. Nice defense, and Jonathan Willard this time jumped the block.
Yeah, Willard got tired of being cut blocked. And Glennon still got enough on this ball. Great coverage downfield by Brewer. But that started with excellent pressure by Willard because the running backs for NC State have been cutting. And Willard said, I've about had enough of you at my knees.
And that wasn't Thornton who missed the block. That was Brandon Barnes. Thornton has been near perfect on his pass protection. Highly unusual for a freshman. Glennon throws complete, and that's going to be enough for a first down. Mario Carter, the tight end, first year as a full-time starter. And Glennon just hangs in there in the face of heavy pressure.
Man, he really works the pocket well. There's bodies running free. Thornton's running right in his face, or excuse me, Willard. And he's able to step into the pass as well as anybody I've seen under pressure in a long time.
Todd McShay projects him as the 3rd quarterback taken in the draft this year behind Geno Smith and Matt Barkley.
In my opinion, I think Glennon is much better than Matt Barkley. I think Matt Barkley's going to go on and have a nice NFL career, but when you really break down Barkley, a lot of interceptions, a lot of decisions that you wonder why he's making it. When you watch this guy, I think that Mike Glennon, when it's all said and done, I think he'll be drafted ahead of Matt Barkley, in my opinion.
When you evaluate him, Ed, as a guy with pro potential, he has the skill set that you need in the NFL. He can make every throw.
And I think when you add to the fact that he's a much better athlete than you would think a guy 6'6", 6'7" is, you add that element. And now I think you know, with a guy like this for NC State, 3rd and long at this point in the field again, you cut this to 4th and 2, I think you're probably going for it again.
Thornton is back in, pressure coming. Caught by the tight end Carter. The defender never saw the ball, and Glennon dropped it over Shuey's shoulder right into Carter's hand. What a throw.
This is good defense. The blitz is getting there. It's wonderful coverage by Shuey. As he goes to find the ball was when he missed it. The only thing Shuey did wrong there was he looked just a touch late.
What concentration by the tight end to make that catch.
And a good throw by Glennon, too. You know you've got a trailer because of the blitz. You know you've got, if you've got a vertical route, you know that the linebacker's going to have his back turned. So don't overthrow it.
Give him a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a wonderful throw. And again, the only thing Shuey did wrong was look a half a second late. Otherwise, he had perfect coverage.
Pressure coming again. Carter has it intercepted in front of him. Picked off by Clemson. Rashard Hall with his 4th interception, and that was a lazy throw by Glennon. He was trying to fit it in again and came up short.
I'm not so sure that Rashard Hall. Nope, I thought Hall held on Carter. He did not. Hall did a wonderful job, and this was not a great throw by Glennon. For a moment there, I thought it looked like Hall maybe got away with a hold, but he's able to make contact before the ball in the air. He did not grab the shirt of the tight end, and that ball was underthrown severely.
Turnovers are now even at 1 apiece. Sammy Watkins with his 10th catch. Still trying to break the big one. You give him enough opportunities, he's going to do exactly that.
What a huge missed opportunity for NC State.
Sure
They
was.
make a couple of plays, some great throws. Carter makes the great catch, and then they turn it over inside the 15-yard line. Boy, that's a big miss.
Certainly within easy field goal range or makeable field goal range. And that's the 2nd consecutive possession that they have been in field goal range and came away with nothing. First on the sack, and now on the interception.
Can't do that against Clemson because we saw Clemson against Virginia Tech, who played him as good as they could defensively. Clemson still put 38 points on them, so you just can't miss those opportunities.
Boyd looks to the sideline. He's got Ellington in the backfield with him on 3rd and long. NC State has done an outstanding job defensively. As we told you, they probably would on 3rd down, but not this time. And Hopkins makes the catch out at the 37. That's his first grab, a guy who had 66 catches and almost 1,100 yards coming in.
Wonderful route by DeAndre Hopkins. Of course, you hear what sounds like boos. He's known as Nuke by the hometown fans here, but one-on-one working against Amerson, just ran him off and made a nice cut.
Boyd again. This one is tipped, intended for Hopkins. Amerson got there, got a hand on it.
And this is where Amerson can be so dangerous. Remember, this is a young man who had 13 interceptions last year, 17 on his career. And when they were talking to the offensive players from Clemson, they kept saying, look, number 1's not had a great year. We understand that, but know that the young man has some ability. That time made a nice play on him.
Boyd, pump fake. Hopkins wide open. Hopkins, touchdown. That is the move that has killed Amerson all year long. He wants to jump the route. So if you give him a double move, you're wide open, and that's the 10th touchdown pass he's given up.
And what did Chad Morris call the play before? A runoff hitch to pick up the yardage. They look like they're going to run the runoff hitch again, but it's a hitch and go, and a very easy pitch and catch.
Amerson, who was such a star a year ago, has been lit up this year as they take advantage of his aggressiveness. And it's 34-24 Clemson with 2:22 to go in the half. You know, one of the guys whose record Amerson broke last year for career touchdowns was Art Rooney. The Art Rooney, the patriarch of the Rooney clan that owned the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had 16 interceptions all the way back in 1937 and 38.
And you saw that double move right there. Hopkins is one of the best route runners in the country. Here's a guy who's a junior. We'll likely look at his NFL draft status, but I assume from talking to some folks around here, likely come back, of course, with a quarterback like Boyd, who I think will also come back. You're going to have in 2013, and take nothing away from this year, because if they win out, they'll end up in a BCS bowl game, likely the Sugar Bowl. But if they can continue to show some improvement defensively, which they have over the last couple of weeks into next season, I just don't see many teams that are going to be able to stop this offense with another year under its belt, and guys like Hopkins and Boyd and Watkins and this offensive line.
I think it was a great point that you made. They ran the play. The play before the touchdown pass was the one that set it up. Sure, you want to get 10, 12 yards out of that. That's just fine. But you're doing it for a reason, and the reason is to suck in the defense, and they did just that.
Well, and they also saw Emerson be very aggressive on those throws.
Palmer. Boy, this kid's having a heck of a day, taken down to 20 this time. And let's check in with Robert Flores.
All right, Mike, here's what's happening on SportsCenter right now, brought to you by HP. Notre Dame, number 3 in the BCS standings, undefeated. Looks like they're going to stay that way. They're up on Wake Forest 31-0. Everett Golson, John Goodman, the connection there. Meantime, UCLA scored the game's first 24 points against USC, but the Trojans have come all the way back. George Uko recovers the fumble in the end zone. Point after no good. Trojans have the ball, down just 4 in the third.
After the play, dead ball, personal foul. Number 20 of the kicking team. 15 yards, first down.
Robert, thanks very much. Big penalty against Clemson on the kickoff. It'll take it from the 20 to the 35-yard line.
Yeah, you just can't finish that play if you're Latique Townsend. You just have to let that go. Play's over. Doesn't matter what's going on in the pile. Just let that go.
Kind of thing get you thrown out of the ball game.
And now for NC State, with 2 minutes, 14 seconds left, all of their timeouts.
Boy, Dabo was really letting them have it, as he should. It's a huge play that gives NC State field position it shouldn't have. Loose ball. Looks like Clemson has it, and they do. Malachi Goodman came flying around the corner, and Malachi got a hand on Glennon. He coughed it up.
Goodman, a guy who Brent Venables and the defensive staff have been waiting all year for his productivity to match his ability. This is a very powerful big man. Good hand slap, pushes, gets underneath. Glennon could not step up because there was very good pressure in the middle there by Josh Watson. So because of the pressure by Watson, Glennon not able to step up, and Goodman gets the sack and the forced fumble.
Corey Crawford with the recovery. Sammy Watkins, another flanker screen. Boy, you know NC State has studied film. They know this is coming, and they try to get enough bodies on the outside to cover that.
And that you know, when you watch a pass rush, it is about the entire rush. And Goodman had a nice rush, but really give a lot of credit to Watson on the inside, who had whipped the right guard, and therefore Glennon not able to step up into the pocket.
Boyd. That's going to be a first down at the 10, and a really good game for Brandon Ford, who Season got off to a tough start when he had 5 drops in the opening ball game. So they ignored him a lot.
And he got banged up a little bit in the ball game we did against Georgia Tech earlier in the year. But you start to see, we talk about arm strength for Glennon. Number 10 for Clemson's got a little arm strength.
Yes,
too.
he does. Ellington, maybe a yard on that one. Right into the teeth.
And I think if you're NC State, you've got to start thinking about a timeout here. As a matter of fact, I think you should get one at this point, because this clock, I don't think Clemson's going to be in a super hurry between plays here. You're just letting this whole thing burn off.
Pressure coming on Boyd. Great job to pick it up. There goes Taj Boyd. The middle of the field was wide open because they blitzed and didn't get there. And when Boyd saw a gap in the line, he had nothing but green grass in front of him.
And when you blitz your second level, there's nobody there to ghost, to shadow with the quarterback, and that's exactly what happened.
The point after is good. This has been the most schizoid half I have ever seen in my life.
And Boyd pulls this down as soon as he sees that lane. He was going to stay in his progression, but as soon as that lane opened, he saw there was literally no one within 15 or 20 yards of the middle of the field. So because of the blitz, you mentioned it, Mike, there's nobody home.
We talked about him losing 20 pounds since last year. Last year, he could have gotten that touchdown.
And that's the thing, you know, Mike Archer, the defensive coordinator, we were talking to him from NC State. They just haven't been able to generate a pass rush with their front four consistently enough. So they've had to go, and they knew coming into this game that they were going to have some plays like that. They just a little bit of make or break sometimes, but talking to the coach, they felt like they did need to pressure Boyd. And now with 3 timeouts in a minute and 14, you get a sense that if NC State doesn't get anything on the board, the floodgates may have opened going into the third quarter. It's still the first half, right?
Doesn't feel like it. I mean, it's 41-24. How can it still be the first half? Holy cow.
This is no longer 1981. That's how.
No, it's not. It's not even 2008. Palmer 9 yards deep. Coverage of Monday Night Football continues on ESPN at 6:30. Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's. Then at 8:30, 2 division leaders square off by the Bay. Brian Urlacher leads the Bears in that defense against Patrick Willis and the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football. Our best to Jim Harbaugh. We understand he underwent a minor procedure this week. And our best to our own Mike Ditka, who had some health problems this weekend. We hope both of them are feeling 100%. Understand Jim is already back at practice, so he should be great. Still a minute 14 to go in this half for Glennon. That's plenty of time. Pressure coming, draw play.
Well, now Clemson should start thinking about their timeouts. If NC State's going to go conservative and run the ball,
why not?
Yeah, you're sitting on 3 of them. The way my offense is playing, I would like 48 before the half if possible.
Hasn't crossed anybody's mind as yet. And NC State, they're in no hurry.
Well, I don't get this. You've got 3 timeouts. You've got a senior quarterback. I have no idea why you wouldn't have your foot on the pedal. You're being left a little bit by Clemson. Every possession counts.
And on the other side, if you're Clemson, I don't know why you're not calling timeout, because you've got the momentum clearly in your favor. Now they do, but a lot of time worked off that clock.
I just think for NC State, with over a minute and 3 timeouts, starting the drive on your own 25, I think if you don't put your foot on the gas there, the way that Clemson can score, I'm just not sure you're going to be able to catch up.
Well, in the last possession, they turned it over. I think that may have influenced how they came out to run this possession. But you're down by 17 with 30 seconds to go. And now I think you do something conservative, like a delay.
Yeah,
trying to take 7-8 seconds off the clock.
Yeah, you've made your bed. Now you have to run it out. Exactly. The problem is, now Clemson, after the 3rd down, if you don't pick it up, they're going to burn that timeout as fast as they can. So not only are they going to get a punt play where you could get a big return and or potentially a block, but you may have 2, 3, maybe 4 plays of offense with those timeouts before the half runs out. And as we know, sometimes it doesn't take Clemson that many plays to get down the field.
You know me, I love stats. This is fascinating. North Carolina State has 360 yards in total offense in the first half, and they're down by 17 points. How's that possible? Barnes on the delay. He will not get the first down. And Clemson uses its 2nd timeout with 25 seconds to go. Now you have to be thinking about the 30-35 seconds that just walked off the clock before they used
after the first down. And you know, there's some argument where you wait to 2nd down to use that timeout, but when you start getting underneath a minute, I think you have to use them. But give them credit, give Clemson credit, they did use those timeouts, and now they're forcing NC State, who I think inexplicably chose to be very conservative on that drive. and I think falls into the hands of Clemson. Can you imagine if Clemson can get another score on the board?
Depending on when you tuned into this game, you have seen actually 3 different games. Clemson started this game on fire. They got the first 13 points. Then NC State got the next 24. Clemson has the last 28. I mean, somebody's not taking their meds. This is bipolar. Watkins is deep. Fair catch, 37, he muffed it. Clemson's got it. What a save by Hopkins.
And the fans with their Newt call saying good play, because Watkins just absolutely muffed this ball. But now 16 seconds as we take a look at the muff. Watkins just doesn't catch this clean. And NC State, just a bad bounce, goes right between the legs of Emerson, who's standing right there. But now, because of the muff, I think that Dabo Swinney said, you know what? Good idea. We've got 41. I don't blame him. Take it to the house.
We thought about it and we passed on it. What a first half. 41-24. Clemson had 441 yards on 61 plays. 61. This crowd really breathing a sigh of relief. Let's go down to Janine.
Dabo, I don't know about you, but that has been a crazy half after some huge momentum turning plays by your defense. What else has helped turn this thing for you guys?
Well, you know, listen, that's a good football team, and we knew they were going to make some plays. That quarterback is outstanding. Fortunately, we were able to kind of start getting a little bit of pressure, make him throwing a little early. You know, we hung in there, weathered the storm. Offense, you know, got back on track. I thought it was a big score when we came down and got back down by 5. That was a big answer. But the 2 turnovers are the story of the game for us this half. Defensively, you know, really poor coverage early. I mean, they had 3 big plays for touchdowns where we did a just terrible job. But, hey, we came back, we settled down, weathered the storm. We've had 2 turnovers. Both of them led to points. And they're just playing, you know, good enthusiastic football, and that's what it's going to take.
Well, if the first half is any indication, we can't wait for the second. Thanks, Coach.
Janine, thank you very much. Points, points, and more points. 41-20.
If you like offense, you are in good shape in this ball game. A multitude of points at the half, 41-24, Clemson.
We're at the half, and this is the ACC on ESPN. We're at Death Valley, Clemson, South Carolina, where the Tigers lead at 41-24 at the half. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm tired. That was the longest. That was the longest first half in captivity. And it's 41-24, and it just kept going like this.
And when it started going like that was when NC State was down 14-0. Excuse me, 13-0, because it was 2 field goals and a touchdown for Clemson. Now down 17, getting the ball back. They need a little of that Glennon magic. If they don't score on this drive, I just don't think Clemson's going to slow down much offensively. So don't want to put it all on this drive for NC State, but you kind of feel like it's now or never.
Now, Clemson always has its foot on the gas, and I'm sure that they will the entire second half. Palmer is deep to receive the second half kickoff. Five yards deep, he takes a knee. Take a look at our Pacific Life game summary.
Well, NC State was down 13-0, and then all of a sudden Mike Glennon gets into the act with Tobias Palmer, back-to-back long touchdowns. and a wonderful diving catch by Richard Smith. And then Clemson, all of a sudden, Taj Boyd looked like he'd kind of fallen off a little bit. He wasn't throwing the ball accurately there between that middle part of that first half, but all of a sudden Boyd got on fire. And a lot of it has been with his feet. A guy who last year at the end of the season had let his weight go a little bit. He's a very lean 219 pounds now. A much different guy than NC State saw last season.
Glennon, this time there was no blitz, and they throw complete to Tobias Palmer as we check in with Janine Edwards.
Well, Mike and Ed, if you think that the NC State coaches aren't happy right now, you're right. They're really not happy. Defensive coordinator Mike Archer told me, you know what? We are still having problems communicating. We've got to do a better job getting the calls. We've got to do a better job tackling. And head coach Tom O'Brien told me, hey, this is where we need it. We need to come out quick. We need to score. Clemson and us have exchanged making runs. It's our turn to make a run. And he also told me defensively, they've got to do a better job getting to Taj Boyd.
And Janine, you're right. It has been a game of runs. And one of the guys I've really been impressed with in this game, Ed Cunningham, is Thornton. Yeah, he has run hard. He is, for the most part, he's hit the right holes, and he's thrown some great blocks and pass protection. And here he goes again. Thornton across midfield to the Clemson 49-yard line.
And you can't point it out enough that Thornton was a young man, a true freshman, who was likely headed for a red shirt. Mustafa Green was the starting running back at the beginning of the season, was thrown off the team for multiple rules violations. James Washington, who was a leading rusher last year with Green out with an injury, then injures his knee. And now Tony Creasy hasn't been able to play much. I think still battling a little foot injury.
Glennon, great throw, big hit, and it's still complete. Peyton did a great job of hanging on. No, that's not Peyton. Asa Watson, the backup tight end, and he was hit almost as soon as he got the ball.
Watson, of course, had the huge fourth down catch against Florida State, and a good hit there by Rashard Hall. Midsection, didn't lead, didn't go into the head. Good clean tackle.
Glennon, short set, can't find anybody and has to roll. Still can't find anybody and throws it away. Really good pocket presence, doesn't it?
Just has a great feel for it. And it's been tough. There hasn't been great protection because of the changeover. It's hard to express that an offensive line for Clemson, their offensive line has basically been the same 5 guys all season. So you get used to the calls, you get used to working together. But for NC State, this is the 7th offensive lineup that they've used all year.
Glennon with time, throws underneath. Thornton. Well, he just refuses to go down easily as Jonathan Willard finally dragged him down. It'll be 3rd down.
And you have to think you're going to go for it on 4th if you don't get it here. Field goal just does nothing for you at this point in the ballgame the way Clemson's been playing on offense.
Especially, you've seen him score 41 points in the first half. You can't have this illusion in your mind that you can stop him in the second half.
So maybe this is a place where you could take a little play action chance here.
Pressure coming. They got him from behind. The blitz from Vic Beasley. That's his 6th sack of the season, and Glennon never saw him.
Well, this was confusion on who to block. Because of the stack here, Beasley's the guy with his hand on the ground. The offensive line goes to slide, and that was the left guard, R.J. Mattis, who another guy came inside, so Mattis didn't bump out and block Beasley. That was pretty simple.
Sadie will try one from 49. He is hit from 32.
This is right on the edge of his range, so sometimes this ball will go low.
And that was tipped at the line of scrimmage. Ed Cunningham, I think you're absolutely right. He tried to drive it to get the extra distance. And it's a big stand by Clemson.
And that's twice on 3rd down where NC State, one time they get backed out of field goal range, and this time because of the sack, they back up, low kick, and it gets blocked.
Got a beautiful shot. Look at the number of plays for Clemson. 61 in the first half. 61 plays. Ellington. 62 is pretty good.
Ellington, a guy, a senior, who has obviously starting to, scouts are probably starting to look at this young, very, very explosive. You know, earlier in the year we were talking to Bud Foster, as Ellington looks like he might have a little bit of a lip, but Bud Foster, defense coordinator for Virginia Tech, said, I know everyone wants to talk about the other guys, but 23 to Bud Foster, Virginia Tech's the guy who makes this thing go a little bit.
He is a very, very dangerous runner across midfield to the 48-yard line. He's number 4 all-time on their rushing list. 3rd in the ACC this year, averaging 83.5 yards a game. He's already gone over the 100-yard mark in this one. 14 carries for 104.
Comes over with a little bit of a limp. It doesn't look like it's anything major, but you know, from earlier in the year watching until now, it looks like he's really worked on his patience. Seems to be cutting more crisply. More patient for his blocks to set up.
Humphreys jet sweep. Well, he's got some quickness, doesn't he? And the previous 2 games we did, we saw very little of Humphreys. And what they're obviously doing is adding layers to this offense.
Well, that's the scary part as you start going forward. And of course, Chad Morris is going to start becoming fodder for head coach discussions, of course. And he's made no bones about it. That's in his career plan.
Boyd after the pump fake, touchdown. Martavis Bryant, about as wide open as you could get. Was it the pump fake that did it? Probably. They have been so vulnerable to double moves. Catanzaro for the point after. Another perfect strike. And another drive that took only a minute 2, 68 yards. There was the pump fake and the perfect strike to Bryant.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. And University of Phoenix. Let's get to work.
These photographs taken by the Clemson student photography group, and boy, they've had a lot to shoot today. 4 minutes into the 3rd quarter, Clemson already has 509 yards and 48 points. Are you serious? Palmer is deep, had a couple of big returns, gets a chance to bring this one back. Tobias Palmer. Is this kid any good? He's up to the 33. Here's Robert Flores.
All right, Mike, here's what's happening on SportsCenter right now, brought to you by HP. Louisiana Tech, 20th in the BCS standings. Jesse Palmer saying earlier they've got an outside shot at a BCS berth, but they're losing to Utah State at the half. Colby Cameron picked off his first pick in 444 attempts, a streak that goes back to all of last season.
They have shown a miraculous ability to score points this year. And score points faster than Clemson. Here's Janine Edwards.
Well, Mike, something Coach Tom O'Brien told me at halftime was that his offense needs to keep drives alive. Well, after they came off the field, after that last series, he walked over to their bench and just stared them down. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to say a word, but their offensive line coach said, guys, you've been moving the ball all the way down the field, and then you're checking out. You've got to keep the drives alive.
When Tom O'Brien folds the arms and stares, he gets people's attention. That's what 8 years in the Marine Corps will do for you. Shuey makes a tackle. No gain.
And you had mentioned that, you know, there's been some rumblings locally in the Raleigh area about Tom O'Brien after what he did at Boston College and now at NC State, and you can see the foundation of what he's trying to build. I know there is some frustration with the wins and losses, but to me, I look at a guy like Tom Bryant, I still think he is a great fit at NC State, especially when you take into account everything that's happened to his club this season.
Amen. Blitz coming. Thornton Thornton down to the 45-yard line. Rashard Hall, the safety, had to make the stop. Well, it looks like they got a good one in Shadrach Thornton out of Hinesville, Georgia. Zed told you in the first half they thought they were going to be able to redshirt him, and you always like the redshirt guys coming into the first year of the program, but out of necessity he is playing, and boy, he's playing well. He's shown a lot of heart. He's shown some quickness and some speed. And one of the reasons most coaches just refuse to play freshmen, and especially play them on all 3 downs, is because they can't pass protect, and we've seen he can do that too.
No, there's almost no running backs at the high school level that are dominant, that do any form of pass blocking or are ever asked to. So it is such a foreign thing for young running backs.
This one is behind Underwood.
You got to think again at this stage of the game over midfield. If you don't get it here, you've got to consider going for it on 4th.
And you may not be able to think about field goals anymore.
Yeah, no, I think you've got to think 7 every time if you want to get back in.
3-man rush this time. Glennon with time to throw, and when you give him time to throw, he is going to find somebody. This time it was Mario Carter, the tight end, his 3rd catch of the ball game. You know, if I'm playing against Glennon, I have to be thinking about, you've got to get pressure on this guy every time.
And that time, a little bit of pressure coming late from the left side, but there was no blitz. Let's see what Venables starts dialing up for the defense.
Brandon Barnes will get a couple as he gives Thornton a breather.
Brent Venables, his first year coming over from Oklahoma. And meeting with him yesterday, he was a lot calmer than when we met with him earlier in the year. He's a very intense guy, but his first year, got a nice payday to come here to Clemson, and had a bunch of young guys playing linebacker that couldn't quite communicate properly, so but things have settled down for him.
Pass to Watson underneath. It'll bring up a 3rd down. And Clemson certainly doing a better job of communication on defense. Players talking to each other. They have been better in the last 4 games, but then the quality of their opponents has been down in the last 4 games.
But the one thing that Brent Venables makes sure to point out when we were talking yesterday, yeah, the competition wasn't great, but we lined up better. We tackled in space better. We had more negative plays like this.
And this is the 2nd time on 3rd and short that a play's been blown up right up the middle. Grady Jarrett came straight through.
Grady Jarrett, who blew up the puller on the last play, this time just too quick to the inside. There was no way that the center Wentz was going to get over there. Now I think you got to leave this ball in Glennon's hands. I think you run some slants, a hitch, something short, but this has got to be Glennon.
And Clemson comes with pressure trying to get there, and they block the pass. Willard, the linebacker, got a hand up and knocked it down. The success they have had against Glennon is when they have brought pressure.
Very timely call by Brent Venables. Nice job by Jonathan Willard. Willard's had a really nice ball game. The senior, weak side linebacker. You see him dip that shoulder, get the penetration, get the hand up. Wonderful call. Venables, for a couple of plays there, he was playing coverage, and he's thinking, okay, this guy's going to pick me apart.
Coverage hasn't worked.
Yeah, 4th and short, that was a wonderful call. Good execution by Willard as well.
So Clemson's defense holds, preserves that 24-point lead. You know, one thing that we haven't talked about, and you know, this is on me not bringing it up, because I thought from the beginning of the season it was a huge thing. Dabo Swinney took $300,000 less in salary so that he could make the moves with the coaches that he did to secure Chad Morris, to make sure he wasn't going to go anywhere as the highest paid offensive coordinator in the country. And Brent Venables got a huge deal to come here as a defensive coordinator. And when you're willing to do that as a head coach, you're making a statement that the success of this program is more important than me and my immediate need for recognition and money.
Well, and I think for Dabo Swinney, most of the country remembers when he took over on an interim basis for Tommy Bowden, and very excitable on camera, you know, impassioned speeches during interviews. Look at this play.
Here's one of these plays where everybody stands still, and it's a throwback to Ellington. Ellington inside the 30. How inventive is it? I love that play. The defense sees guys not moving.
And they don't know what to
hesitate.
Watch the entire offensive line. The center, Freeman snaps it. They all just stand around. Boyd runs the other way, and then all of a sudden, there are 4 offensive linemen standing around ready to block for the ball carrier.
On that replay, you could see only 2 of the interior 5 guys pursued the play.
Yep.
The other 3 thought it was a blown play and it should stop. That's why it succeeded.
Guys like Chad Morris, with not just the ability to invent plays like that, but to be able to coach them and get to a place where week in and week out you can execute them, that's just a good teacher.
Boyd near the 20.
But I want to go back to the point I was making about Dabo Swinney. When you're talking about the choices he's made with his salary and to bring in guys like Chad Morris, when you sit down, this guy has a plan. He really understands this place. He really understands the history of this place.
Yep.
He's very in control and comfortable in the head coach's office. You just get the sense that he's really grown into a very mature and good head coach.
3rd and short. Boyd picking his way. Needs to reach the 19-yard line. I think they're going to mark him at the 20. And a little pushing and shoving after the play.
Well, and this is not the type of team that will kick a field goal here.
It'll be 4th and about a yard.
Sneak up right behind your senior center, Dalton Freeman. A little quarterback sneak. You're what? Right at a yard?
Yes, they need to get just to the 19-yard line. Humphreys on a jet sweep. Boyd will keep it. And it looks like he's got it by the length of a football.
So, this is a quarterback sneak from shotgun.
Yes.
I mean, that's the crazy part. Just throw everything you ever knew about offense before about 7 years ago out the window. Because how many teams on 4th and short would run? And you think, well, shouldn't you be under center? But that's what they do all the time. It's so natural for them to run those plays out of the shotgun.
And if you don't think the jet sweep fake was effective, Brandon Bishop, the safety, had a clean shot at Taj Boyd if he had kept coming. Inside the 10 goes DJ Howard. This offense is something special.
It really is. It really is. The amount of things that they do with different personnel, different formations, the speed that they go, they make you defend 5 quarters. You don't play 4 quarters when you play an offense like this. You have to defend it for what feels like 5 because of the number of plays.
Humphreys. Nice job by Burris to close space and make the tackle.
Big hit by Ricky Dowdy on Taj Boyd as he lets this go. Pressure's always going to be coming. Good clean hit by Dowdy.
Sure was.
And then a little bit of that sportsmanship that the ACC pushes forward.
You don't mind picking a guy up after you've knocked him flat on his keister.
I think that's a respect pickup too, though.
Boyd, touchdown. 3rd rushing touchdown. There is a marker down late.
There's a touchdown on the field after the play. Unsportsmanlike, number 55, Clemson. Personal foul, number 75, NC State. Those penalties will offset. We'll play to try.
Dalton Freeman, the center, and T.Y. McGill, one of the tackles. So it looked like one of them did a little extra celebrating and maybe a shove afterward.
And there is an NC State player down on the far 20-yard line. Hard to tell who that is, but when they were clearing the field, we saw the medical staff come on. That is Brian Slay, senior defensive lineman.
You know, we were talking about Chad Morris. One thing to keep in mind, this is his 4th year of college football. Now, I know Texas high school football is big time, but it is still high school football. But 1 year in Tulsa, 2 years here before this one. 4th year, and right now he's very close to the point he can name a job he might want in college football as a head coach.
Yeah, he's going to be, and has great head coaching experience. And again, you can say at the high school level, but 5A high school football in Texas, it's like running a program. So it's a guy who has experience being the head man, decision maker.
And he says there are a lot of other guys coaching high school football in Texas that can do what he's doing right now. Clemson has raised the ante. It's 55-24. Having another sensational ball game. 40 total touchdowns he's responsible for this year. School record 7 today. He's thrown for 4 and rushed for 3 more. If you're on offense, this is a pretty good day.
And we have 4:13.
If you're on defense,
in the 3rd quarter.
Palmer deep for the kickoff. He'll take a knee. There's a flag on the kickoff.
Clemson was offsides on the kick.
And there's a fudge factor on kickoffs. You really have to be offside to get a flag for it. Let's go to Robert Flores in the studio for an update. Robert?
All right, Mike, here's what's happening on SportsCenter right now, brought to you by HP. Matt Barkley has been picked off twice, but he's thrown for 3 touchdowns. But UCLA has answered that touchdown with a Jonathan Franklin touchdown run, and UCLA extends their lead.
You never know in rivalry games, do you?
Yeah, and you know, Jim Mora Jr. at UCLA. You talk about National Coach of the Year. I'm not sure he's going to hit that radar, but I'm not sure there's anybody in the Pac-12 that would deserve Coach of the Year in conference more than Jim Mora Jr. From where that place was under Rick Neuheisel last year to now potentially go represent the Pac-12 South for the championship. It's been an amazing change in culture under Mora.
Brings that NFL experience with him.
And they got tough and hard-nosed. You see that all the time. A new guy comes in and just says, that's not how we're going to do it. They went to training camp. They went away to training camp. And give Neuheisel credit for bringing some talent there, because Jonathan Franklin is an NFL every down back, I think. But what a great turnaround.
So now you give Palmer a chance to return another kick. Starts at the 3. Look at this kid. Tobias Palmer, midfield and more, needs one more block. And taken out of bounds again by Xavier Brewer. That's the 2nd time he has saved a touchdown run. And Tobias Palmer had just brought it back for 81 yards. What a remarkable game he has had, Ed.
And wonderful blocking. You could see all of the orange jerseys being bent as they were running down the field. Their lines were being bent to the right. And that's the way NC State has been returning it, is to that left side. So at Clemson, when they go to start breaking this film down, they may have a weakness on the right side of their coverage that they need to clean up.
All he has done is set a school record for all-purpose yards, 423. What a remarkable game. Here's Thornton. Touchdown.
Number 10.
Holy cow. It's like we're playing a video game, but I can't find the buttons where you hit for defense. So the 81-yard kickoff return sets up Thornton.
But you've been talking about Thornton all day. How was that run?
Terrific.
The cutback, the finish. NC State's, I think, found themselves a long-term running back.
3 touchdown drives of 18 seconds or less. You can't get much faster. That is just stunning. Tobias Palmer out of Pittsboro, North Carolina, 5'11", 175, is senior. That record may stand for a while.
And it started in the passing game. Starting the opening kick, he actually got a nice return here, and you could just start to feel it. That ball there where he almost dropped it. I heard the hiccup in your voice thinking, oh, they're going to drop it. And then the same side of the field attacking a different corner. But it's been in the kick game, and all of his yardage has come with him going to his left. And then the final one, you made a good point there, is Xavier Brewer isn't playing perfect safety position for Clemson. Palmer may have about 500 yards of total offense and 2 touchdowns in the kick return game as well.
And it's 55-31 with 3:55 to go in the third quarter. Hard to imagine that we're done. The 423 all-purpose yards, also an ACC record. Let's see if Martavis Bryant can match that one. Takes it out across the 25-yard line. Now, there's a little tension in NASCAR, isn't there? Brad Keselowski trying to hold off 5-time champ Jimmy Johnson. Last race of the season to determine the championship. The NASCAR chase for the Sprint Cup. Ford EcoBoost 400 at Homestead, Miami tomorrow afternoon, 1:30 on ESPN. Keselowski, all he has to do is finish 15th or better, and he wins the championship. Ellington can't break a tackle, taken down back at the 20-yard line. Let's go to Janine.
Well, guys, just an update on NC State defensive lineman Brian Slay. It appears as though he took a helmet to the ribs when he came off the field after that last series and he collapsed on the sideline. He was in a tremendous amount of pain. They had him laying on the table with his legs up in the air. They've wrapped his ribs with ice. When he tried to sit up, he was in so much pain he had to lay back down again. So it appears there's a rib injury, and he will not be returning.
Janine, thank you so much, and certainly we hope that young man's going to be okay. Done several games over the course of his career out of Ashburn, Virginia, where the Redskins have their permanent facility.
The penalty was a personal foul against Clemson, so they back it up to a 1st and 25.
Had a couple of these lately, and you don't want to see this game get out of hand. Here's a draw. Ellington back to the 11-yard line.
Excuse me, 2nd and 25.
Of course, if you're on defense, you're probably getting a little testy right now.
It's so hard when, as we go around and talk to defensive coordinators around the country, offenses have changed forever. This is different than I think anything we've ever seen in the game. There's so many elements to it. I think, and a lot of it, you've talked about Chad Morris coming up from that high school level. A lot of it is starting to percolate up from that high school level where coaches are tired of playing against teams that maybe have more physical players than they do, so they spread the field. But the athletic quarterback, I think, has changed the game forever.
Boyd picked off. Intercepted by Robert Smith.
Interception by number 27.
That is a heck of a play on defense, and he brings it back for 20 yards, and NC State will be able to set up shop again.
Well, Earl Wolf does a fantastic job of baiting the quarterback. Watch, he's going to move to the middle here, right at the snap, and he's reading the eyes and then starts to bail right under it. Boyd never saw Wolf, who snuck over to his right, was not playing a deep safety. The deep safety was Bishop, who had bailed out, and Wolf played in the middle of the field, snuck one on Boyd. Boyd had no idea that he was hanging around that area, I don't think.
I said Smith, you're absolutely right. That was Wolf. 1st and goal for Glennon and NC State. Throwback, that's going to be a touchdown right in the hands of Mario Carter, who was wide open. And what great patience by Glennon. He's looking right, waiting for his tight end to come out on the delay.
This kind of feels like what happened there in the first quarter, where it felt like Clemson was going to run away with this thing, and all of a sudden you get a huge turnover on Clemson's side of the field. Remember, they had 3 of those in last year's loss to NC State. Things starting to change a little bit.
4 one-play touchdown drives. 4. Apparently that's all they need. And that was a great call. That was a play they had not run. They set it up beautifully with Glennon just staring to his right, then calmly turning back and hitting the tight end who was wide open.
Well, and the nice part about this is very similar to the play that Clemson ran, where everyone stood around. This one, you slow play it, you slow play it, you slow play it, and it's all about patience until you can slide that tight end out across the formation, and another nice, soft, catchable ball by Glennon.
That was the point you made earlier. You don't want to rifle that when you've got the guy wide open. You just want to lay it out there, make sure he can get it. And Glennon has shown everything he's going to need in the NFL. He has shown a huge arm. He has shown touch. He has shown presence. He's shown guts.
Well, the way that he throws into pressure, where he's able to get his weight onto his left foot and get the transfer, is spectacular. It's top shelf. And, you know, we've been talking a lot about Chad Morris. A little credit here to Dana Bible, the offensive coordinator at NC State. This is a guy who's been around the game forever, a wonderful offensive mind. You see that he has a few of these plays up his sleeve as well when they need them.
55-38. Jeez.
How many one-play touchdown drives?
4.
Okay. Checking if that's still the right number.
And Clemson will take a knee and start from the 25. Tomorrow night, your playlist goes live. Performances by Taylor Swift, Linkin Park, Usher, many more. The 40th American Music Awards. Tomorrow night, 8, 7 Central on ABC.
You know, and this was, remember in that first quarter, when NC State started making a little run, Taj Boyd was not playing great. He became a little inaccurate, and they weren't able to move the ball. So let's see if Clemson responds here with a more crisp offensive series.
He got his rhythm back after he stumbled some in the first half. And they'll start this possession with a handoff to Ellington. Lucas and Dowdy made the tackle. You know, for Earl Wolf, he's called the heart and soul of this defense. Interceptions are not really the big thing for him. It's been forced fumbles. He has 8 in his career. Big hitter. Ellington, a little swing, takes it out across the 30. That'll be a first down.
What a nice job by Ellington there. This play was defended, absolutely dead defended, and he stretched it, and then because of he's so explosive when he puts his foot in the ground, he stretched it until he could cut it back to pick up positive yards.
Check it, it'll be 3rd and 4. There's the tight end Ford running free in the secondary. One man to beat. Ford hits the pylon. It's a touchdown. 69 yards. 240 pounds rumbling out in space.
Well, and unfortunately, it's feast or famine for Earl Wolf. The safety that time, he had the interception earlier that time. He came up to try to make a play on this ball, couldn't do it. And what a nice finish by the tight end. Right foot inbounds, touches the pylon. Perfect mechanics by the official right there in the pylon. You can see his eyes, seeing that the foot is in bounds, and then he comes over and finds that the ball hits the pylon. Nice piece of officiating, good touchdown.
It really was, and you could tell from that camera angle that he's doing everything he's supposed to do.
Absolutely.
Sees the foot inbounds, and then his focus shifts to the pylon, and sees the ball hit at the pylon. If you hit the ball with the pylon, it's a touchdown.
And that side judge there, he starts at about 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. So when a play from across the field breaks that long, he's got to meet it at the pylon. So you've got a guy in his 40s chasing a guy in his 20s. So sometimes it's tough to get there, but that side judge did an excellent job of getting to the spot.
If the play stands, it's going to stand 61-38.
After further review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. Touchdown.
Well, there's the answer for Clemson. In the first quarter, they weren't able to answer the surge by NC State.
Well, we're going to run out of records in this game, I think. We have 1,127 yards in total offense. We're not even in the fourth quarter. Catanzaro may be getting leg weary. Hooks that one inside the left upright. Brandon Ford has just tied the school record. 8 touchdowns by a tight end. And that was certainly the biggest play of his season.
And he ties Dwayne Allen, who was his roommate last year. Of course, Allen, as a junior, went out in the NFL, and he's now a starter for the surprising Indianapolis Colts.
Aren't they ever?
Yeah.
And boy, has this school produced some guys who have gone on to play in the NFL.
And it's not going to stop, I think. You start to look at this roster and the classes that Dabo Swinney and his staff are starting to put together. And it's an easy place to come and play college football. It's a great college town. It's an unbelievable home field advantage, one of the best stadiums to come see a game in the entire sport. They're in a good conference. And unfortunately for NC State's sleigh, this day is over.
See, this game started, what, 3:35? It's almost 6:30.
And we're not in the fourth quarter?
No, we're not.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to make that flight in LA or back to LA tonight out of Atlanta at 9:50.
Dinner's on me. Don't worry about it. Tobias Palmer, I'd find a way not to kick to this guy. Goes left again. Another seam. Tobias Palmer across 40 to the 43. Holy cow.
This guy is going to start creeping towards 500 yards plus.
He just creeped.
Yeah. And Breland is down. Rashad Breland. Remember, this is a guy in Breland who had a groin problem. Barely played last week. But it has been the right side of the coverage for Clemson that NC State has just pounded. I don't think one of his long returns has come anywhere but to the left. And so for Clemson, when they go back into the film room, they're going to have to break this down and say, what is our weakness on that side? Are we not getting our blocks? Are we not staying our lanes? Probably all of the above, but they've got some fixing to do.
Just chasing him would give people groin problems on this kickoff team. 467 yards, and they're going to need a new Tiger. He's going to do push-ups every time they score. I wonder if there's a backup Tiger.
And going into the stretch here, playing South Carolina next week, and then potentially if they win that into a BCS Bowl, Clemson getting thin at that cornerback spot. If that is, in fact, the re-aggravation of the groin injury for Breland, those are the types of things that can last for a long time. And, of course, Darius Robinson already out.
They do. They've got a backup Tiger. They're going to need it.
Maybe they'll split. If Clemson scores again, maybe they'll split the push-ups.
Unbelievable.
Do half each.
And we still have 1:31 to get in the third quarter. Glennon. That'll pick up about 9 to Mario Carter, the tight end. He's been very active today. He's got 4 catches.
And Shuey at middle linebacker for Clemson. Such a nice story. A guy who had gotten up to 250 pounds last year. They were cross-training him as a defensive end / linebacker. Brent Venables comes in, and this young man put himself to work.
He was recruited as a tight end out of Charlotte, North Carolina by Duke, Wake, and Illinois. But he wanted to play linebacker, and the only school that even said, we'll give you a chance to play linebacker is here at Clemson. So he said, I'm going to Clemson to play linebacker.
And under last year's defensive coaches, he kind of got lost in the shuffle. He saw a coaching change as an opportunity. He really made the most of it.
Glennon hangs in the pocket against pressure. Tried to get it to Underwood and missed him by a stride.
And Glennon just got hounded as he threw this. But watch even under pressure. Watch, he does everything he can to transfer his weight onto his front foot, even as he's about to get slammed to the turf by DJ Reader. Not a totally accurate throw, but he was getting cut in half.
Thornton.
But going back to Shuey just for a moment, there is a very talented young man in Stephon Anthony who started the season at middle linebacker, who's just not a great communicator. He's one of those players who isn't comfortable calling everything out. This defense has really improved with Shuey in there and Anthony rotating.
Blitz coming. Pass complete's going to be about a half the length of a football, short of a first down. Hegedus makes the catch, only his 8th of the season.
I would recommend not running this between the tackles. We have seen that that doesn't work so far in this ball game.
That play is blown up in their face.
Yep.
And they're going to let the clock run out on the 3rd quarter and talk about it while we have a timeout. 62-38, still a quarter to go from Clemson.
ESPN's College Football on ABC. Brought to you by K Jewelers. Every kiss begins with K. AT&T. Rethink possible. And Cadillac, the standard of the world.
Ready to start the 4th quarter in a 62-38 ball game. 13 touchdowns, 3 field goals, 1,152 yards in total offense, and 152 offensive plays.
I think this is run the ball outside, potentially. They've tried in between the tackles on these short yardages and haven't gotten much.
2 tight ends. Thornton is the running back. Quarterback keeper, Glennon. Well, there's a good choice if you're going to do that.
Mike Glennon, the quarterback keeper, picks up the first down.
I'll tell you a guy I've been impressed with is Grady Jarrett, the nose guard for Clemson. This defensive front earlier in the year didn't quite have as much productivity as they want, but Jarrett, a guy, a former high school wrestler, short, powerful guy. He's been getting such great movement at the point of attack. He's even on that one, even though Glennon picked it up, he was in the backfield of NC State. He's had a nice ball game.
You would expect him to play well. He has good blend lines. Jesse Tuggle was his father. Glennon standing tall in a pocket, floats it, threw it on the wrong side, had a man out there. He had Quentin Payton open, but Payton was turned inside. Glennon threw it outside, and he stumbled a little bit trying to get back there.
Quentin Christian had very nice coverage, though. He had turned and run from that outside linebacker spot on the strong side. So it had to have been a perfect throw to complete it.
Blitz coming, they pick it up, and the pass incomplete. The success they have had against Glennon is when they have sent the blitz, because just coming with 4 guys, he has been able to sit in that pocket and really tear them up.
And you heard Dabo Sweeney tell Janine at halftime that the reason they're bringing that pressure is to make Glennon throw it just a little sooner than he wants. And that's exactly what you're talking about. If you let a guy like that stand around, he'll pick you apart. So the blitz isn't necessarily to get the sack. It's to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand just a touch sooner.
In only 2 years, he's already 4th all-time in touchdown passes, 4th in total offense, 4th in passing yards. He has just been terrific. Had a chance to run here, throws instead. That one was dropped. It looked like Quentin Payton should have been able to make a catch, but Brewer is there to get a hand in.
Give Brewer some credit. NC State has had problems with the drops all year. But let's see Brewer get in there. Yeah, that ball needs to be put away. And I don't want to take anything away from Brewer. He's had a nice game, especially on kickoff coverage where he saved a couple of touchdowns. But that's another ball that needs to be caught.
4th and 10, no question they have to go for it at this point. Thornton will go out as a wide receiver. Blitz coming. Glennon hangs in the pocket, straight down the middle of Palmer. Touchdown. Boy, if they had some busts in the secondary. Palmer running free in the middle of the defense.
And there was confusion. You can see right there Brent Venables with that look on his face. The middle linebacker, Spencer Shuey, right before the snap, ran over and was trying to adjust where people were lined up. And I think trying to tell them what the coverage was. A complete blown coverage by Clemson.
The numbers on Tobias Palmer. Total offense, 496 yards. That's a wide receiver and a kick return. He has 219 yards receiving on 7 catches. Just staggering numbers.
Well, you can put up staggering numbers when the defense doesn't line up correctly or play a coverage that was called by their defensive coordinator.
That's Brent Venables. That's the D coordinator. Our research guys are going crazy trying to catch up with all these records. Tobias Palmer, the second most in the Football Bowl subdivision, 496 yards in all-purpose yards. I mean, that's just crazy. Here's an update from Robert Flores. Robert?
All right, Mike, we got a great game in Madison, Wisconsin. Down 14-7, Kirk Phillips to Jacob Peterson. Point after good, and we're going to overtime, tied at 14. Coming up later on ABC, Kenyon Barner and Oregon at home, undefeated, hosting Stanford. That's coming up 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC.
Robert, thank you. Clemson back to work. And it's Roderick McDowell fighting for extra yards. Should have a first down out across the 35-yard line.
Let's go back to that touchdown. Hard to tell, but Jonathan Meeks starts coming up to the line of scrimmage, and Shuey, trying to call a blitz, pushes Palmer off, thinking that Meeks would be behind him. Hard to tell who made the mistake there, but obviously Shuey was expecting Meeks to be the safety on top, and there was no safety on top.
Yeah, and you can't ask the middle linebacker to cover Tobias Palmer.
No, and again, it's impossible to know what the call was, but the way Shuey pushed him off, he obviously was expecting not to have to run and cover the slot receiver.
There have been a lot of guys today who have been expecting to have safety help in the middle, and somebody's missing.
And that's been a problem for Clemson all year long. Their biggest issue has been they can slow teams down, but then they have mental bust that allow the big play.
Boyd, flanker, screen, peak. He'll pick up about 5. Peak is probably is the fastest player on this team, north-south speed. But he only caught 23 balls coming into this one. They've just got so many guys.
Well, now you're
so
starting
explosive.
to get Adam Humphries involved a little more.
3rd down and 5. They'd like to keep this drive alive, especially with NC State getting back into the ball game, and they do with Bryant, Martavis Bryant, with his second big play.
And Bryant, a guy who suffered a horrible groin injury in the weight room earlier in the season, had to have surgery. Finally starting to come back, and a big, tall receiver. So this guy, a sophomore, and starting to get into the flow a little bit.
First down, Tigers at the NC State 38-yard line. DJ Howard, the tailback on this series. Humphries is on the wing. Howard will get the carry, runs into 3 red and white clad tacklers for NC State.
Well, this is a way different team than Clemson in 2011. And when we were meeting yesterday with Dabo Sweeney, he said, you know, last year we had 42 freshmen on the team that were playing who learned what it's like to peak too early. So this year it's been about weekly improvement, and we have seen the weekly improvement, and all of the coaches here said this is not the same 9-1 team that went and lost in Raleigh last year to NC State.
Boyd on that read gives it off to Ellington down to the 35.
But you keep
another 3rd down here. You
keep playing this forward for Clemson. If they win against South Carolina, get into a BCS bowl game, second year in a row, what does this team look like next season if all the guys come back they expect to come back?
Pretty good. Clemson has racked up a season-high 694 yards so far, and we still have 11.5 minutes to go in the ballgame. Changed the formation after they look to the sideline. Ellington goes behind Taj Boyd, and Boyd wants to throw. Pump fake goes deep. Hopkins. Incomplete. Now the fans are really going to be upset because Amerson was face guarding, but that's perfectly legal.
Well, and Hopkins is the guy who puts his left arm up first and initiates the contact. And so that even though Amerson, see how both guys have their arms up? Awfully close, awfully close. You don't, in college football, you don't have to come and find the ball, but it looked to me like Amerson was kind of running through Hopkins there. I think potentially you throw pass interference there. Awfully close. I don't disagree completely with the no call, but I think maybe you throw that one.
High, short punt. Fair catch made inside the 15-yard line. The Boo Birds are out at Death Valley.
ESPN College Football is presented by 5 Hour Energy. Hours and hours of energy. And in part by Jarrett, the Galleria of Jewelry, with 5 times the selection of ordinary jewelry stores.
Left in a 17-point game. Here's Janine Edwards.
Well, guys, if you need to get in shape, don't bother joining a gym. Just become the Clemson Tiger. The Clemson Tigers behind me here, 2 guys, Chris Austin and Andrew Beeler, the guy in the suit, they have combined for 330 push-ups tonight because of the scoring during this game. Now, the record is 465 push-ups, which they could get if they score a couple more times. And guys, for the first time all season, their third stringer, the third string Tiger, that would be Caleb Reynolds there. He will be going in if the Tigers score again. So you never know how many Tigers you're going to need when you play here at Clemson.
Janine, if they score again, they're going to need a vet to come in because the Tigers are an endangered species.
Of course, they do a push-up for every point on the scoreboard after every score. But I don't want to be the nitpicker here. Those weren't exactly military-issued push-ups there. That was about a quarter of the way down.
Those are small nits to pick. Of course, I guess by definition, nits are small.
Offense, 5 yards, first down.
And how do you get a delay of game?
Yes, you have to try to get delay of game when you come out after a break to run a play.
That's almost impossible. It's only the second flag against the offense today in a game that featured 164 offensive plays. It's remarkable in itself. Glennon will go back to work inside his 10. Blitz is coming. And officials blow this one dead.
Timeout, Clemson. Their first 30-second timeout.
Clemson uses a timeout on defense. I think maybe they had the wrong personnel out there and didn't want to have the play run. Now, tonight is a perfect chance for you to use Watch ESPN. You can check out #1 Kansas State at Baylor on ESPN with your laptop, your tablet, your mobile device using WatchESPN.com or the Watch ESPN app. You can also enjoy at the same time #13 Stanford and #2 Oregon on ABC.
I'm not so sure what you're going to see this much offense in any ball game tonight. But it is shocking how many games now in college football go over 1,000 yards combined,
isn't it,
between 2 schools. And the number of plays, that's the part that I think has changed more than anything in this game, is the number of plays that are run on offense. And if you think about it, the number of plays you have to defend.
Which is the key.
And you start to wear out. You make one mistake on a play that maybe you wouldn't have run if they didn't run that many plays, and it starts to add up.
Thornton Nice cut and a hard run and a solid tackle by Brewer, who got him down. And Brewer's made some big tackles in this game.
As tough as it has been in the secondary for Clemson, Brewer's a guy who's been standing out on both secondary and special teams.
20 carries, 102 yards for Thornton. Glennon underneath, throws for his fullback Logan Winkles. Winkles makes his 6th catch of the year, taken out by Jonathan Willard. Don't ever expect to see Logan Winkles or Tyler Purvis, who is his backup fullback, get a handoff, because in Tom O'Brien's entire career, no fullbacks ever gotten a run. Not one. Huge 3rd down here. Glennon's got to keep the ball, and he will. 3rd and 3, hits Mario Carter.
You know, as crazy as this is, and here goes NC State getting up to the line of scrimmage. NC State very good at running a lot of offensive plays as well. But you get a score on this one, cut it to 10, get a turnover. as crazy as this game has felt, and felt like Clemson's run away from NC State, this thing's not over.
Thornton rambling through the secondary up to the 42. Glennon, by the way, has thrown for 448 yards so far in this game.
And the guys in orange are starting to walk around a lot with their arms at their sides, having that look like, I hope the clock runs faster than this offense. And if NC State can hit a couple of plays, you wonder if mentally this defense is checked out a bit.
It is more physically taxing to play defense than it is to play offense. And they have played defense for a long, long time. Underwood makes the catch, very close to the 1st down sticks.
I mean, this is starting to look easy. Thornton's starting to get 4, 5, 6-yard runs that were 1-yard runs earlier. Glennon's getting the ball out. NC State starting to put their foot on the gas a little bit. If I were Brent Venables, I'd almost think about another timeout, almost like in basketball.
Well, it's part of the theory of running this offense is by the time you get to anywhere in the 2nd half, you've got them on their heels. You've got them sucking for oxygen. Little crossing pattern is going to pick up about 7, and that's to Winkles again.
You don't think of NC State as being, because they still huddle, they still kind of get together, you don't think of them as running a lot of plays, but they're actually #1 in the ACC for a number of plays run per game, so they can play this game as well.
Really, you'd like to see the hurry-up version of what they're doing right now, because they don't have a lot of time. They're down 3 scores no matter what they do. And that one is dropped. It was a perfect throw.
Pass intended for number 89, Benson Brown, broken up.
Benson Brown, the 3rd-string tight end, couldn't hold it.
Well, you're definitely in 4 down. You're going to run 4 downs anywhere on the field at this point in the game. So maybe you look at Palmer up top. He's been the guy that they've been looking for on the long throws.
Pressure coming, ball's loose. Still loose. NC State got it back, but it's all the way back at their 48-yard line. And Vic Beasley was the guy who got to Glennon again. The 2nd time he's been able to drill him from the blind side. And the 3rd sack by Beasley in the game.
And Beasley, a guy who, if they can get a little bit of weight on this guy, he's about 225 pounds. If they can get him to 240 or 250, they think they're going to have another standout defensive end. Well, at 225, he's doing okay already.
4th and 12. There's no choice. They've got to go for it. And one-hand catch by Mario Carter. Glennon hung it up there, and the tight end ran it down and made the catch with one hand. What a play.
And that was Tony Stewart in one-on-one coverage. He bought the fake to the outside, and after all of the drops for NC State all season, all of a sudden Carter, who had a bad drop against Florida State, makes a tough catch to keep the drive alive.
Glennon with a career-high 493 yards and nearly had more, as that pass intended for Rashard Smith just off his fingertips.
And what a throw by Glennon under pressure again. I know it's a broken record, but watch Glennon gets enough on this ball as he's about to get hit. and this should be a touchdown for Rashard Smith. Got to make that catch.
Second down. Blitz coming. Looked like 7 guys. Underwood didn't notice the blitz, so he pulls up.
And so now, if you're NC State, you know what Brent Venables is going to do once you get inside the 30. He's going to start bringing the heat. So you've got 3rd and 10. You're thinking 4 downs here. I think this is an opportunity to run a draw or a screen, something that you know you're going to get that pressure. And if you slip one guy, maybe you get the first, but at least you can get a positive yardage play.
And you still need 3 scores, so a field goal is a possibility here.
Good call.
Pressure coming. Glennon throws. That's incomplete. It was short. As Quentin Payton went to the outside, the ball was about 2 yards shy.
Yeah, but I think, Mike, you make a good point. You're sitting here at 17, and you've got a 4th and 10. I think you may want to kick this field goal. Yeah, this is exactly what Tom O'Brien's doing. Because if you don't get it, the ball game is over.
Right,
and
so,
so
it's a 3-score game. Anyway.
Yeah. So this is the right decision. Keep your club in the ball game. See if you can get a stop or a turnover or something fast. I think this is the right call.
Sadie from 40. He's hit from 32 and missed from 49. Nice kick by Sadie. And now NC State within 2 scores and still a ton of time left in this game. Welcome back to Death Valley, where it's 62 to 48. That's what I said, 62 to 48.
And of course, Georgia Tech beat North Carolina last week 68 to 50, which set the all-time scoring record at 118.
And we've got 110.
It may last a week. Well, that happened in the afternoon, so a little more than a week.
So this would be the record for a day/night game.
Yeah.
Here's Robert Flores with an update. Robert, thank you very much. Urban Meyer, you can't do what he did. I mean, to keep these kids motivated every week, knowing that they are not eligible for the postseason, is just a remarkable coaching achievement.
I think what Luke Fickell did last year as the interim head coach.
Yes.
With everything that happened off the field, with Jim Tressel getting run out of there.
Yep.
And a guy who is still on the staff as a co-defensive coordinator and defensive line coach.
Right.
I think what Luke Fickell did to just hold that mortar together long enough for some new energy to come in under Urban Meyer. It's been spectacular.
Well, you know, Clemson would just like to put together a drive here, take about 4 minutes off the clock and put this one out of reach. But part of this offense really isn't designed to protect the lead. Just go get more.
Well, and that's the one thing Chad Morris told us a few weeks ago when we were here is, you know, when we start to slow down, we make mistakes. So you can tell they're trying to milk some clock here, which you can't blame them.
Ellington lowers his shoulder. Here's Janine.
Well, Mike, we and the fans are not the only ones who are impressed with this Clemson offense. You know, their center, Dalton Freeman, told me about it from a lineman's point of view. He said, basically, you can't see anything. We are so focused on the guy in front of us, what's happening in that box. We can't see the play. He said it's not until the next day when we watch it on film. He said he actually sits there in awe and says, wow, I didn't know that play ended up looking like that. I thought that was just really, really interesting.
Janine, there are a lot of wows in this one. Trying to run the ball, and second effort by Ellington picks up about 4 or 5 yards after he was stopped at the line of scrimmage. You could hear a couple of fans when he went into the line of scrimmage. Oh, come on. We've only got 62 points. Let's throw it.
Dalton Freeman, who overtook Landon Walker's school record for most plays played at Clemson. Of course, Walker finished in 2010, but with today's start, the start against South Carolina, and if Freeman's healthy, he'll also tie Walker's record of 49 career starts. And, as a former center, I can only imagine how much fun it would be to play in an offense like this.
And right now, the brakes are on that Clemson offense. They're going to keep this on the ground just as much as they can. And big plays as well if they can get it. But this is going to come back, an obvious holding call on the corner. You don't get that free.
During the run, holding. Number 18 of the offense. 10-yard penalty. Replay first down.
Jerron Brown, who's already graduated from Clemson, the wide receiver, holding on the corner. Clemson has run 91 plays, and that's the first offensive penalty that they've had. But they are obviously trying to run the ball and work the clock.
And Ellington came up looking like he might be, we saw him early slightly, not injured, but like he was in pain a little bit. I'm sure he's okay, but for the run against South Carolina, and then if they win that game, able to get into a BCS bowl game, Ellington's such a key cog in what they do offensively.
Got Roderick McDowell on the field right now, and they're trying to use as much of that play clock as they can. Be 1st and 13 because it's a foul from, or a marked off from the spot of the foul. Let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary. And these are just crazy numbers. 180 total plays, over 1,300 yards. Glennon with a career-high 493 yards passing. Palmer, the second best ever all-purpose yard total in college football. Boyd, 8 total touchdowns, 5 passes and 3 rushes. You got
Also
a lot more,
a school
but you
record.
can't fit them all on the same screen.
And isn't it amazing now to watch Clemson go slow on offense? They're now running plays in a process that feels more like a traditional offense, and it just feels like they are in quicksand. It's amazing the difference in tempo.
Let's take a look at today's Good Hands play, brought to you by Allstate. And it's Tobias Palmer with his touchdown catches.
Well, he had to catch this one twice, but it doesn't matter as long as you haul it in. But NC State had it working with Palmer. 2 times it looked like maybe there should have been a safety there when there wasn't, but Palmer, he won't be second all-time. Now the record, I don't know if he's going to get there. It's 578 by Emmett White of Utah State back in 2000 against New Mexico. I'm not sure he's going to get into that territory.
Well, if Clemson would score and he had a chance for a kick
return, yeah, good point.
He might have it. This is only about a half-yard shy of another first down. And first down's all that Clemson cares about.
And I just think, I think what Chad Morris sees is NC State defensively just had it. There's no way you can defend this many plays and chase this many ball carriers and have anything left. You know, Nick Saban made some waves a few weeks ago when he was talking about hurry up offense and we should talk about the rules. I don't agree with that, but after this play, we'll get into that just for a second.
Boyd. He's got the first down, and that means they can work off another 2.5 minutes on the clock.
I love this type of offense. I think the game has changed forever, and the genie's out of the bottle, and I like it personally. However, the one thing Nick Saban said that we do have to at least consider, there is a safety issue here. When you have to defend 90 or 100 plays, you're not moving your feet as well at the beginning. Your feet are on the ground, so more bodies are going to start rolling in, blowing out knees.
You can't unring the bell, though.
No, I agree.
What do you do?
You're going to have 3 strings of defense. You're going to have a place where you can recruit and have a 3rd-string linebacker that can come in and play. I just don't think you can defend it. If you only have 15 or 20 defenders that you can roll in against these types of offense, I don't care how good those guys are. When they have to defend 90 or 100 plays with these types of athletes, I don't think you can do it.
Oh, we got 3:33 left to go in this ball game. The outcome's still in doubt, even though it's 62-48. Heisman candidate Colin Klein carrying Kansas State to the top of the standings, and now the Wildcats of Bill Snyder in position to play for a national title game if they can keep it going. They'll take on Baylor's stellar offense tonight. Unfortunately for Baylor, the defense has not been there at all. Here's Taj Boyd. 2 yards shy of a first down. A first down would just about ice this. Now let's take a look at this week's BCS standings, brought to you by Tostitos.
And of course, it really matters for Clemson with Florida State clinching the division today. They'll go play for the championship. So Clemson has to start looking at the other at-larges as their competition.
Look at 4 through 9. 4 through 9, the Southeastern Conference. Isn't that remarkable?
They do have some depth down there.
Yes, they do. And of course, the question is, people are always playing the numbers game. If you only have 2 left, that would make it easy, but it's never going to be just 2 left. It can't possibly work that way. What would happen if all 3 lost? I don't think all 3 are going to lose.
No, now you've got to get Alabama back in that conversation.
And maybe Texas A&M?
Well, they're going to be at 2 losses, so it'd be tough, I think, to get them back into the conversation. But
true.
I think we're a long way from having 3 undefeated teams. Kansas State, I agree. Baylor defensively been struggling, but Colin Klein's been beat up. He's been a guy who's taken a lot of hits. Say he has an off game, a couple of turnovers. Baylor can score.
Tom O'Brien, I think, did the right thing here. He used his timeouts. He's got to set up a 3rd down. He's got to stop him defensively to have any chance. And Taj Boyd has the first down to the 35-yard line, and now it's all over for NC State. Here's Janine Edwards.
Well, guys, I'm with somebody who was an All-American here at Clemson. He was a first-round draft pick, C.J. Spiller. He now plays for the Bills. You're good friends with Andre Ellington, and I know you didn't play for Chad Morris in this system, but from watching it and from what Ellington's told you, what's it like to play in this kind of offense?
He says it's very exciting to play in it. He says that I would have had a lot of fun in it, that we would have put up a lot of points like they're doing now, and probably my career probably would have been even better, especially with me and Jacoby Ford, because it's a speed offense. So it's definitely fun watching these guys play.
Dabo told us a funny story about how you committed to them. It was a huge secret. Your mom thought you were going to Florida. Tell us about that and why you chose Dabo and Clemson.
Just because what he stood for. You know, he was straightforward with me, and he was a down-to-earth guy, and that's what I was looking for in the coaching and in the atmosphere. And when I came here and on my official visit, I knew this was a place that I wanted to come to. I just didn't know how to tell my mom that this is where I wanted to go because I grew up 25 minutes from the University of Florida.
Well, you did great. Thanks for joining us. And, guys, the Bills play the Jags on Sunday, and guess what? Dabo Swinney's going to the game.
And he should see quite a game there. C.J. Spiller has really turned it on. Watch this hit from Wolf.
And Taj Boyd still in the game because it is a ball game, and the running quarterback is a part of this offense. But what a shot by Earl Wolf. And to me, Boyd's done. He came over the sideline, but he brought everybody together to kind of get him motivated. But I think Taj Boyd probably made the choice, maybe got the wind knocked out of him. I might be done. Very clean hit, legal hit by Wolf.
Well, we saw Cole Stout, the son of Cliff Stout, the former NFL quarterback, trot onto the field, but then they got a timeout, so we'll see if Cole stays out there for the final 2:02.
I'm just not sure why you'd bring Boyd back in after a hit like that. Be done.
There goes the helmet.
Yeah.
I think it is over.
Yeah, a spectacular day. He had that little down period there in that second quarter, but once he came back.
How is it possible to say, you know, he had a stretch there where he didn't play well and still 529 yards total offense?
Unbelievable. We saw it against Virginia Tech. He didn't play great, and they still scored 38 points in that game. And this is the part of the game, the run game, that is so much different down the stretch than it was last year. Of course, he's got a very talented arm, but I really think the difference this season has been the ability of Taj Boyd to take off and run, and he's just so much more fluid with the ball in his hands.
McDowell gets the carry. I think it's a tribute to how good this offense is and how good the skill players are in it. That was play 100. That is just a stunning number. It's a school record.
I would be shocked if Taj Boyd carries this ball. I would not want my quarterback carrying again after that hit by Wolf.
I can't believe he's back in the game.
Well, I think it's just going to be to hand it off. I think it's a ball security issue. This is the guy who handles the ball more often. There's no way he's carrying.
McDowell goes straight ahead. Picks up maybe a yard. Another tackle from Ricky Dowdy, the weak side linebacker.
And you don't want to do anything here but let the clock melt. Maybe even, well, you're going to run a play here, but I would assume with Boyd, the hit that he took, this is going to be, maybe they'll take the timeout so they don't have to get the penalty, because if you pick up the first, obviously it's over after that.
I hope you don't feel numb from all the numbers that we're giving you, but this is a huge numbers game. 750 yards in total offense for Clemson. 750.
Well, and 597 for the guys across the way. And they've run 88 offensive plays. We've had almost 200 plays of offense in this game.
Here's the kicker. Clemson hasn't scored in the fourth quarter.
Shame on them.
They only need 6 more yards to set the all-time record for total offense for Clemson. It's interesting, we were talking about Chad Morris earlier and his future. He said he would like to be a head coach. He made a great statement. He said he doesn't want his first head coaching job to be his last head coaching job. He wants the right job at the right time, and certainly he's in a position to get that.
And it will be an assessment of, can I go to this place and compete for championships?
Yes.
Both at the conference level and potentially at the national championship level. I don't think Chad Morris would ever leave this place for anything less than a university that you can go there, you can recruit, there's a fan base, there are people that come to the game in droves.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to leave this place for anything other than a place that can win a championship.
No, there's absolutely no reason to go to a second-tier program where you don't have all the things that you just listed. Fourth down, Humphreys end around. And he's got a first down. Well, now the official comes in, does not give him a very good spot. They may have to measure. No, it is a first down. So the clock will restart. And Clemson does not have to run another play.
And a very quality win for Clemson. It does matter on the national stage, looking at the at-large games like this, putting up big numbers. So a good quality win for Clemson in their BCS resume.
What a ball game. 100 points in Death Valley. Once again, the final score, Clemson 62, North Carolina State 48. For Ed Cunningham, Janine Edwards, and our entire hard-working crew, hope you enjoyed this one. This is Mike Patrick. Thanks for watching, everybody. Now, let's send you back to the studio.